Critics reckon it'll just mean the gap between the Premier League and EFL actually widens, as promoted clubs won't get as much money, which should normally be used to buy better players so they can compete. And current Premier League clubs have said if there were no parachute payments, they'd actually invest less, which would harm the quality of the top flight. And if clubs don't invest, then you'll get exactly what the EFL don't want, which is the same 3 clubs going down every year. And remember when Cardiff's owners changed the club's colours and badge? Well, in future, fans will have to approve any major changes to their club's heritage. Now that might all sound great, but do we really need it? Some say the downfall of Reading and Bury is an exception, not the rule. So as a whole, the most successful footballing pyramid in world football doesn't need regulation. They say it scares investors who can help grow the game. If those investors go elsewhere, well, the Premier League may no longer be the destination for the best players in the world. And others, well, they just don't trust politicians to appoint truly independent people to regulate our game.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White and Simon Jordan, and we are live in talkSPORT. So Tottenham collapse late on as PSG win the Super Cup on penalties. Was it always going to be evolution instead of revolution at this stage for Thomas Frank's Spurs? Meantime, Arsenal legend Tony Adams claims the Gunners won't win the title with Odegaard as captain. Is he right? Or is that overstating the impact of the armband? Also today, has UEFA just ripped up their own rulebook regarding political messaging? How long should clubs be able to make a point with pundits? Ref cam for the Premier League, will it increase scrutiny? And from midday we talk boxing as we close in on Atoma versus White over in Saudi Arabia. It's Jim White and Simon Jordan. We're live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
So as you know, Simon, and thank you for your message, I had a birthday last month in July. Assistant producer referee Joe has a birthday this morning.
Ah,
and
Joe.
he's the tender age of 29.
Is he?
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
Okay.
I look at Joe and I think, hopeless case.
Yeah.
And then I think of you at 29. What were
Politically challenged. Yeah.
What were you doing at 29?
Well, I wasn't offering young girls a walk home from school at the time. Simply Joe's second trade. I mean, obviously, Joe, I assume, I didn't know it was his birthday, but I assume by the fact this ultrasound machine that I've given that he refuses to return, he assumes it's the birthday present.
Oh,
His
right.
injury they got her. So many happy returns, Joe.
Oh, that's right. He did his hamstring. So he's, but he's called referee Joe because he would like one day to be a top class referee.
At what
There is
point?
no chance of that happening. But in
there
a
an age
training
limit?
session, he did himself recently his hamstring, didn't he? Hence, you lent him a machine.
Yeah, I assumed he pulled his hamstring sprinting away from the studio so he could have 3 weeks off when no one else was here. I assume that's why he pulled his hamstring off.
Anyway, having destroyed him enough, let's move on.
Yes,
Referee
indeed.
Joe, happy birthday. Lucas in the hot seat as always this
Go over to the
morning.
photocopier, take a picture of our backsides and sign it and send it to him for a birthday card.
I bet you're glad you had a birthday, and I bet you're glad we mentioned it, Joe. Good morning to you. Good morning to everybody. Already, the messages are streaming in, albeit predictably enough. Isak is our latest, not that I know of, but anything that happens during the next 3 hours of a positive nature and an accurate nature, we will bring you it first and fastest on this show. Tottenham, PSG, you have a look at it?
I had a glance at it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a good game.
Yeah.
Don't forget the opposition you're playing against. I mean, I hear certain Spurs fans being critical. I think Spurs were quite good in the game. I think they showed a bit more structure than they've showed previously. Okay, losing 2 goals in the last 10 minutes of a game will be the thing that people point at. But the opposition they were playing against was being argued as the best team in world football 2 or 3 months ago.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought Tottenham would put a performance out. You know, everyone would suggest that ultimately, because of their pre-season run and getting bashed up left, right and centre in their pre-season games, that would be an indicator of how they were going to be put to the sword by a rampant PSG.
Yeah.
They were competitive in the game.
Well, for those who don't know, Tottenham are 2 up in this game. It was played over at the stadium of Udinese in Italy. They were 2 up very late on. PSG got back into it, 2-2. And then it went to penalties and PSG won the penalty shootout. The new man in charge, Thomas Frank, said, well, let's take the positives.
Day after, I guess, the Bayern game, it was already, I knew that we had to do something a little bit different against PSG. So it was like a special operation. And it was... medical terms, the operation succeeded, but the patient died. So it was not that good in the end. But no, so we worked on a game plan that was a little bit different and very, very close to succeed.
That's a sort of Harold Shipman analysis, isn't it?
Go on.
Well, the doctor recommended amputation.
Yes.
The operation was a success, but the patient died.
It was a bit serious, wasn't it? But was it not, Simon, always going to be evolution instead of revolution for this fella and his Tottenham side?
Yeah, I mean, it's a cup game between 2 sides that have won European competitions.
Yeah.
It's not that particularly important. It'd be nice to see Tottenham win it because it would have cemented some of the thinking that they're starting to progress towards winning things rather than participating in them. But they're playing against a very good side. And the fact that they were very competitive in the game and had the opportunity to win the game is a testament to where Tottenham are likely to head towards. So I think Thomas Frank is a sensible appointment. I think there'll be a better side under Thomas than they were under Ange Postecoglou for a different set of reasons. He'll be less irresponsible at times. I don't think this... We were talking yesterday about the swashbuckling approach. I don't think he'll curb that. I think he'll give it some balance and a bit of temperance in transition when the ball gets lost. They won't be so gung-ho. They won't be so kamikaze in some of their thinking.
Yeah.
And I think that can't be something that people disagree with. And I think Tottenham will be an interesting watch this season.
What do you think now for Thomas, though? Should he be knocking on Daniel's door at Tottenham? I mean, has it given the window, the transfer, has it given a window into what could be with a bit more backing in this transfer window?
Well, you know, they're trying to buy players, aren't they? They tried to buy Morgan Gibbs-White, and they come up against a chairman that wasn't absent, was there and making sure that Nottingham Forest weren't selling one of their best players. I mean, Spurs will spend money. How much money they spend on what they buy. A big thing is for Tottenham, they want to buy players that are where they need to be rather than build them up. And Tottenham tend to buy players that are at a stage where it's incumbent upon the coach. And they've got a coach who can coach. So it's his job to improve players. So if they buy a product that isn't a fully completed, fully rounded, full package like Isak will be for Liverpool if they get him, then they develop them and bring the best out of them. And of course, there'll always be an argument that Tottenham can spend more money and the players that they buy need to be of a better calibre. But Frank will know what he wants. He will have had, I'm sure these discussions were had a long time ago. I'm sure that when Thomas Frank was courted by Tottenham, he didn't knock on their door. He didn't send a job application in, did he? They came to him and they wanted him.
Right.
So at that time, he would have been clear, I would imagine, in his desire to be supported in what support looks like. And I don't think we'll hear Thomas Frank being dissentful out in the public domain because that's not his nature. That's not the way he operates. But
Sure.
It strikes me as a robust character that's capable of batting his own corner, irrespective of whether he's stepped up into a bigger club and he might be a tad appreciative of that opportunity.
Do you think this is a club, though, Simon, now, though, with Thomas Frank at the helm, that's going to knock on the door of a few trophy wins? Do you think we're going to see them in finals now? They won one at the tail end of the season. They lost one last night. Are they going to be in and around it now?
I don't think they're going to win the Champions League. I think they're going to find difficulty winning the Premier League, but there's no reason why they're not going to win FA Cups and League Cups. We've just seen Crystal Palace win one.
Yep.
You know, we see other teams winning the League Cup. Now, of course, Daniel, without any reason for apologising, will set his stall out for wanting to be inside the top 4 because that has economic benefits. That makes it a participation club to some extent, a highly functioning participation club, but a participation club all the same, which means that to get into the top 4 of the Premier League, they need to be focused on that. But it doesn't mean that you should then not be able to win FA Cups and League Cups. And you know that argument is never going to be enough. Levy's die is cast with certain sections of the Tottenham fan base. Because if they go and win League Cups and FA Cups, it'll be considered by that fan base as not particularly relevant because they should be winning Premier Leagues.
Yeah.
So, with Levy in the situation that he's in now after 25 years or 23 or however many, 24 years he's been in situ at Tottenham, and the perception of him running the football club in a certain way, his ambition holds back the opportunity for the club, his failures to spend hold back the opportunity for the football club. I think, unfortunately, like the old saying that Mark Twain had years and years ago, which is a lie, is halfway around the world before the truth even gets his boots on, is relevant to Levy. It doesn't matter what he does now, the narrative has been cast. He doesn't invest and spend money to give Tottenham Hotspur an opportunity to be a club that wins the Premier League.
You're making sense to me, Simon. I'm looking at some of the messages coming in. Typical Tottenham fan here. It wasn't a rampant PSG. It was a sloppy, lethargic PSG. Spin it any way you like, lads. We lost and we didn't go down swinging. I mean, God, there is no...
Yeah, I mean, Danny said that yesterday.
Pleasing some of them.
I mean, Danny and I were sort of talking in the break about what we expected, and we didn't get it on air because the subject changed, about what we expected with PSG. And Danny thought that PSG would be precisely as that individuals described. He felt that they would be a bit lethargic, they weren't up to speed, and that they were coming back in a different way than perhaps Tottenham would be coming back.
But they've only been back now for a week.
I know. They played in the Club World Championships, which has its own impact.
Yeah.
And obviously they lost in that to Chelsea, and they're getting themselves up to speed, but I don't think it really matters. Tottenham have gone into that game, had an opportunity, didn't take it, and if they'd have won it, no one would be saying that's the passport to unadulterated success.
Yeah.
Whatever Tottenham do, whatever teams do, it's like, and I don't apologise for this, it's like Newcastle fans now are beginning to go on the term with the Saudis. I mean, pack it in. I mean, 4 years ago, if you were told 4 years ago that you'd have a football club that's won a tournament now, that's competing in the Premier League at that very highest end, getting into the Champions League, is a great side to watch with a decent manager in situ, and you don't have Mike Ashley, you'd be delighted. Now, you've got all of that, and now people are saying, well, where are the Saudis? They're an absentee landlord. Now, I agree with certain principles of that ultimately they should be dealing with the Isak situation better than they are, but there's this constant necessity of whatever you get, you're never happy with, and Tottenham fans need to accept the fact that they've got an owner in place that's built a wonderful framework. You may need a new owner to have the real level of ambition that Daniel can't have because he doesn't have the financial wherewithal to do it without someone else's money, with all due respect. And you might need a change of ownership. But right now, you've got a football club, albeit last year, that was languishing at the bottom. It's won a trophy, and I think you've got a decent manager, and you should have calls for optimism rather than the constant necessity for ever never-ending pessimism.
Second guess this for me. When it comes to recruitment, Tottenham, we hear, remain interested in Manchester City winger Savinho. City wants 67 million. A bid of 42 million has already been rejected.
Yeah.
Do they get him in the end? And if they do, for what?
Well, they horse trade, don't they? I mean, it's not difficult to see that someone goes high and someone else goes low.
Yeah.
And there's different valuations. The most important valuation that ultimately is the valuation of the selling club.
Yeah.
So Tottenham can put, well, I mean, it always makes me amuse when a buying club goes, well, we value him at that. Well, fantastic. He ain't yours to value. He's ours. And we'll sell him for what we want to. And if we don't sell him, then you can value him till the cows go home. So somewhere in the middle is where situations often land, unless one club is totally entrenched in a position, doesn't particularly want to deal with that football club, has got previous form with them and will not budge on a particular motivation. But £67 million seems like a lot of money for that player. I would imagine it's somewhere in the middle between 42 and 67, so somewhere in the mid-50s would probably get it done.
As you speak, Simon, I see text messages coming into us here, one or two Tottenham fans saying, typical Levy lowballing at this stage in the proceedings.
But that's how you do business.
I mean, yeah, exactly. You don't go in first with the highest bid, do you?
Yeah, I mean, this idea, I mean, there are exceptions, and I know they can prove the point and make, well, Jack Grealish was 100 million quid, and they went and met the release clause, but that's because there's a release clause. They didn't have any choice. They had no choice. Villa wouldn't have released him because they had a release clause in his contract. So the idea that all of these people that make these observations have probably never done a deal in their lives. I'm not being pompous or pious because I might have done a few deals in my life. But if you've never done a deal in your life, someone knocks on your door and offers you half the price for your house, you wouldn't sell it for half the price, or you wouldn't buy one for twice the price that someone was asking. You see a valuation of a house, you walk up to the guy's door and say, I want to buy your house with a valuation 900 grand. No, we want 1.5 million. Oh, okay, I'll pay it then. You wouldn't do it. So why do you expect a seasoned, rounded, professional businessman to go, oh, I'll lose my mind then, and I'll just pay whatever you think. Whatever you think. Let's have a little bingo game and see how many numbers you can pick out of your backside, and we'll pick the one that you like most.
Let's put it out in all seriousness to Tottenham fans this morning. Come on and join us in the show this morning. Why not? Let's do this. 03717 223344. Did you see the positives last night? are there early signs that this is going to be different and to your liking under this man, Thomas Frank? Albeit, you came up short in a penalty shootout. Well, that was that. But during the game, surely there were signs that this is a different Tottenham, and this is a different Tottenham that might go on and win things, whereas before you might not have. Give us a call, 03717 223344 810 89. We're off and running on this Thursday morning. Good morning, everybody. Thursday morning, just the two of us, Jim White, Simon Jordan. That's how we like it, live on talkSPORT. Thursday, August the 14th. We're flying through the month, and it all gets underway tomorrow night. Premier League football is back. It's Liverpool against Bournemouth at Anfield. So much to look forward to there, but it's bound to be a hugely emotionally charged occasion, of course. What with the tragic passing of Diogo Jota and his brother. The match itself is live in talkSPORT. We eagerly look forward to that. What kind of Liverpool are we going to see? What kind of Bournemouth are we going to see now that the guts of their defence has gone? We're streaming live this morning on YouTube and your smart TV. For all the information on how to watch the show, just head to talksport.com/watch. Very soon, we're going to be hearing from former Arsenal captain Tony Adams, who has had a few things to say pre-season. My goodness, in front of a live audience, he said, no, no, it can no longer be Martin Odegaard as captain. It's got to be Declan. Wonder what Arsenal fans think of that. Give it to Declan, then Arsenal might win the league, according to Tony Adams. In the meantime, we're stuck in their North London rivals at Tottenham, and make no apology for it, because Tottenham could well have a different season this season. Might they be in the mood to win things? It seems they are. They got to the final of the Europa League and they won it. They got to the final of the Super Cup last night. They lost it, albeit, though, on penalty kicks. Is this a new Tottenham, a different Tottenham under Thomas Frank? And already, Tottenham fans, have you seen the positives already? Are there early signs that this could be different, that this could indeed be lift-off for you? 03717 223344. Simon is with me, so is John, the Tottenham fan who's first up this morning. John, good morning. What do you want to say?
Morning, Jim. Morning, Simon.
Good morning,
hope you're both
mate.
well.
Thank you. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, there was quite a lot of positives to take from last night. Yeah, we lost the game, but how many people, hand on heart, would have put Tottenham to have won that last night? I mean, they was what I think your bookies said that they were 11-2 to win the game last night, and PSG were odds on. I mean, I'm just getting fed up, so fed up. There's so many. I mean, listening to Jason Cundy last night, I had to turn off. I just couldn't stand it anymore. There's so many positives to have come out of last night. Papi Sarr, runny socks off.
Yeah.
Rodrigo Bentancur. I mean, that's the old Rodrigo Bentancur that was back last night, and even Richarlison put in a bit of a shift. Kevin Danso. I mean, he was he's got the Rory Delap throw now. I mean, How far do you want to take it? The only thing that I would take out of last night, and also I think they said at pitch side last night, even at around about 9:30, 10 o'clock, it was still 31 degrees at pitch side. There's a lot of factors to have taken into that. The downside of it, unfortunately, the racism thing that's come up this morning with Matisse Tell missing the penalty, absolutely disgusting. But then Mickey Van der Ven, he missed his penalty, and everyone's chanting doing his song.
Yeah.
I think this season Tottenham fans are going to be very surprised, and I think the rest of the Premier League are going to be very surprised.
And does it? Well, I'm pleased to hear that from you, John. Does it start with a first day win over Burnley?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? I've been a Tottenham supporter for over 40 years.
Yeah.
I've been through the highs, been through the lows, and every year you sit there and you think, well, am I going to chew my nails down to my knuckles this year, or am I going to be, or am I going to be like just sitting there going, yeah, you know what? I think we're going to win this today.
And you think that, don't you?
Last night.
You think that? Yeah. You know what? This could be different, right? This is what it's coming through to me.
Yeah, I mean, last night, people were saying to me, you're going to get absolutely smashed. You're going to, PSG, what? They're going to do this, they're going to do that. I said, no, I think you need to, I think there's a lot of tweaking that's gone on since the Bayern game. And I think he'll know what he wants, Thomas Frank. Good luck to him. I wish him all the best in probably one of the toughest jobs. And he does need at least another two players to come in.
But
definitely.
You sound very positive, John, nonetheless. Thanks for the call. Gareth, are you the same? Good morning.
I am, Jim. Good morning, Simon. Good morning, Jim.
Morning.
Good morning.
I saw a lot of positives last night. The balance, for one, in the team. And Papa Sarr, Spence, all played exceptional. The only problem that I had was when he made them substitutes, we're just not that depth. That depth of the squad, he needs another couple of 2 or 3 players.
Right.
And we'll be going. Well, we are going in the right direction. You can tell by the balance of the team. I can see so much positives from last night. So much.
This sounds good, Gareth. Thank you for that. Glenn's another Tottenham fan who's through to us. Glenn, good morning. You the same as the previous two?
Yeah, I've kind of run out of things to say now, Jimmy. There's been a lot of good stuff. I think any of the centre backs could have got man of the match for the first half. Danso was unlucky for missing his header. Bloody hell, kudos for the strength on him. I've not seen anything like that since Moussa Dembele, really. It's been a common thing saying down at the stadium that we've not had a player like that since. And I just think as well, if you're watching that and you're Eberechi Eze, you can't not kind of get excited. There was a lot of speed, a lot of talent, a lot of pinging the ball around. Did you watch the game?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
What were your impressions? I mean, okay, so say that
I was very impressed, like you. I mean, I was very impressed. I was panicking for you when it was went to 2-1, and I thought, might change here.
My thought as well was, right, say that was an Ange team, how quickly would they have gone down 2-3-0 in the first 25 minutes or so?
It's impossible to say, really, Glenn, but at the moment, you think if you get another 2 or 3 in, maybe a couple, then you could hit the ground running.
Well, if they're meant to be the best team in Europe, you put that against, again, I know they're not going to play that way every week. And again, the team is obviously going to be stretched when they're playing Champions League, then Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever. But I don't really see us getting beat by too many teams. If that's the best in Europe, Liverpool on their day, I mean, that last 10 minutes, they rinsed us on the quality of the ball. That goal, the Gonzalo, is it Ramos or Alves? Yeah, Ramos won. It was just different class. It was like watching when Barcelona were playing like top-level quality football.
Sure.
You couldn't have kept up with them. So not every team in the Prem is going to be like that. So I'm actually really positive for the season.
Glenn, good to hear. Good to hear, mate. And thanks for the call. What do you make of this, Simon? I mean, I know a ball hasn't been kicked in anger yet in the Premier League, but Tottenham fans telling us, and if Daniel's listening this morning, good morning, Daniel, you're listening to your own fans saying that they are seeing early signs of positivity. What do you think?
Well, they've got an interesting start to the season, Tottenham, haven't they? They've got a bunch of games, with the exception of Man City, that people are going to be expecting Tottenham to pick up quite significant points in. They open their season against Burnley at home. They play away to Man City, then they've got Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton and Wolves, and then Leeds. And so Tottenham, will need to start the season in a way that gives them the momentum, that encourages fans to have a bit more of a forward-thinking motivation rather than we're not happy with this. I mean, all the calls we've had today, I mean, don't get me wrong, fans are perfectly entitled to have a dissenting voice. They're perfectly entitled to not get carried away with certain things or to be critical, because there's nothing wrong with criticism. There's everything wrong with destructive criticism that's not pragmatic or isn't actually steeped in any real thinking. It's just a bias towards either the owner or a particular player or manager at the time.
Yeah.
I think you can take something from that performance. I think they should have seen it out. Yeah, they got to a point where I don't think it's a fair analysis to say that if it had been an Ange team, they might have been 3-0 down, because you saw what Ange does against teams that are better. Or in Europe, we saw what he did.
Well, Tottenham under Ange started very positively as well. They won they're unbeaten in 9 or 10.
Sure, and then people are going back and looking at the teams that they played and went, actually, rather than saying we've got our Tottenham back, we need to look at it more realistically.
Yeah.
And in the same way that Ange set up teams in Europe, when he played Eintracht Frankfurt, he didn't play in a cavalier fashion, which enabled the opposition to be able to get themselves into a game, go 2 or 3 up in the first 25 minutes. He didn't do that.
No, I was at
superior
that.
opposition.
Right.
So there's no indication that he'd have done that in this particular game. But if you're 2-0 up in a game with, whilst teams score late in every single game, you'd like to think they had the wherewithal to see it through. But you look at their bench, you look at their strength. I do think they're getting more strength in depth. I mean, obviously they've got other players that are out injured that can come back. But if you look at their, they've secured Romero, which I think is an interesting situation given the fact he was flapping his jaws about wanting to leave. Now he's the club captain. You look at those two centre backs, you can keep them fit. They're a good defensive unit. They've got the boy Udogie to come back in, who I think is a good player. Jed Spencer's gone in there, who's now beginning to show the potential that he was bought for 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. John the caller, Simon, thinks that Tottenham will surprise a few people. Do you think that?
I don't know. I think it's too early to say what they'll do. I think they'll be in safe hands with Thomas Frank. I don't think you'll see a repeat of last season's ridiculousness in the league. It's whether you can build upon it, whether they can, because you create an expectation, you now have to deliver upon it. So it will be Tottenham fans' desire and expectation amongst the most sort of rabid about their fan base, about what they do and don't do, that they need to win something this season as well.
Yeah.
Which is easy said and done, but as we've said at the top of the show, there's no reason why Tottenham shouldn't be winning cup competitions, domestic cup competitions like the League Cup and the FA Cup.
Sure.
Why wouldn't they?
Well, they didn't bring the Super Cup back from Italy last night, but could well be on the brink of doing something relatively special. We shall see. All gets underway this weekend. Tottenham at home to Burnley. Thereafter, we'll watch with interest. 10:30 this Thursday morning. Jim and Simon live on talkSPORT.
Shin pads are a footballer's best friend. Even if players like Jack Grealish do wear such small ones you can barely even see them. But what's the story with shin pads, and are there actually any rules on how big they should be? It all started with cricket, actually. Cricketers had been wearing shin pads since the 1700s. It was thanks to this guy that shin protection made its way over to football. Meet Samuel Widdowson. He was a cricketer and a footballer. He played for Nottingham Forest back in the late 1800s, and he wanted a way to protect his legs from nasty tackles. Naturally, his mind drifted to his other favourite sport, where players had been wearing these pads for a century. Story goes, Widdowson cut up his cricket pads and popped them on before taking to the footy pitch. His Nottingham Forest team then began wearing them from 1887, and the first known use of them in a match was in 1894, in a match between Newcastle and the then Woolwich Arsenal. Eventually, FIFA clocked on that this kind of protection was pretty important for footballers. And so, in 1990, basically 100 years after Widdowson first put them on, shin pads were made compulsory. It became part of Law 4 of IFAB. That's the body responsible for setting the laws of the game internationally. But the law doesn't actually specify anything about measurements of shin pads. It just says they must be made of a suitable material and be of an appropriate size to provide reasonable protection. It's really vague, even though there have been calls for it to be changed. But for now, that's why Grealish and co can still get away with these ones, which are no bigger than a credit card and which seem to offer little to no protection whatsoever.
Jim White and Simon Jordan this Thursday morning live on talkSPORT. We're heading out to Saudi Arabia later on in the show this morning, of course, to catch up with Spencer Rolliver as we get ever closer to Etoma against Dillian White out there on Saturday night. That and a whole lot more. The boxing live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on Saturday night. Going to hear from Tony Adams very shortly, the former Arsenal captain, on who should be captain going into this season. His vote does not go to Martin Odegaard. That and a whole lot more, so stay with us. Simon, last night, and we've been talking about the Super Cup and how PSG, Nasser Al-Khelaifi's PSG, won it on penalty kicks over Tottenham Hotspur. But for Tottenham fans, plenty to be positive about. But pre-match, as the players lined up before kick-off, UEFA displayed a giant banner on the pitch reading, "Stop killing children. Stop killing civilians." There was no specific reference to a war. UEFA featured children from conflict zones such as Afghanistan, Iraq, Nigeria, Palestine and Ukraine in the opening ceremony. And as well as all that, 2 refugee children from Gaza took part in the medal ceremony post-match. Simon, what are we looking at there? Because when you think of it, UEFA punished Celtic for the fans unfurling Palestinian flags. Yeah. There was talk, they even threatened Rangers with a stand closure after the fans unveiled a banner, "Keep woke ideologies out, defend Europe." Yeah. What did we see last night? Has UEFA just ripped up their own rulebook regarding political messages in stadiums?
No, they've maintained the same position they've maintained previously, which is we will get to say as we want, but if the Great Unwashed put their 2 penneth in, then we're not really interested. And that was the argument we had last time round. I do understand, despite people suggesting that I don't, that football has a powerful influence to play. But I think it sometimes is, I don't understand why it feels the necessity to be at the front of the queue. We know there's dreadful things going on. We're seeing the news cycles every single day in every single environment. I'm not entirely sure that we need sport to show it too. And of course, sport gets itself into conundrums when it finds itself in challenges where it gets itself into a bind about which cause it should alight on and how it should alight upon it. That's my preferred position. But I also understand that geopolitics and sport are massively intertwined. You know, we see the influences of people that want to be involved in sport for reasons that suit their country and suit their agendas and suit their outcomes. We see sports playing a huge part in certain decision-making processes about how these things are awarded and how much currency can be made out of it. It doesn't mean it should be liked. It doesn't mean it should be applauded or something that should be continued, but I accept it's perhaps a reality, and I always try and deal in realities. So going to your original question, it's no different. UEFA believe that they have the rights, or whichever governance or whichever authority we're talking about, to tell you what their version of the message is. But if the football fan, the supposed most valuable part of the football community, dares to voice their opinions, then they're an uncoordinated racist rabble.
We see they've got no argument now of fans of certain clubs.
But they've never had an argument before. There wasn't much of an argument before.
Political message. Well, yeah, but have they ever... I'm not so sure they've ever done anything like this before.
Listen, I don't follow every aspect of what they do. What I did see in the European Championships was the idea that they were trying to alight upon things like the broadcasting of LGBT rainbow flags over football stadiums and the objection that was being taken by certain federations towards the fact that the Hungarian authorities had outlawed teachings of homosexuality in lessons inside their schools and all things of that nature. You're right, I haven't specifically seen them do it in this instance, and clearly they think there's a reason for doing it. And we know there's dreadful things going on in that region, and clearly they're referencing what's happening in the Palestine-Israel conflict.
Well, exactly, Simon. I mean, if I can add some detail to it, 2 refugee children from Gaza, as I say, took part in the medal ceremony post-match. One of the kids was a 12-year-old girl, Tala, who UEFA stated was, quotes, a young Palestinian girl with fragile health, who was transferred to Milan to receive appropriate medical care as the adequate equipment was lacking in Gaza after the start of the war. The other child in the ceremony was Mohammed, a 9-year-old who lost his parents in the war following an airstrike in Gaza. And then you see UEFA's own rules. UEFA states that political messages cannot be promoted in stadiums before, during or after matches. They've ripped up the rule book here.
Well, they will argue that that's not a political message. Where's the politics in that? They will argue that
so what is the message?
This is talking about human rights. Well, is it a political message, or is it a message about human rights and the human condition and circumstances that are being played out in certain aspects of the world? I would say it's a political message. They would argue that it's not, that it's a societal message, it's a raising awareness message. And I always look at football and sport and say, why do you do this? Why do you feel it's incumbent upon you? Why do you get into a situation where you're so full of your own importance that you feel that what you have to say and the manner in which you have to say it is so prevalent, when really and truly the majority of people that are watching a football match are really watching it perhaps to get away from the awful travails of the world and the awful challenges that they know exist in their own lives and other people's lives.
Possibly. But can you give me the reason as to why they shouldn't do something like this?
Because I don't think it's their space or their place. And I think sports is an entertainment. It's to take people away from the challenges of the awful world that we sometimes live in. We are not unaware. People aren't walking around unaware of the challenges of the world, because we have 24-hour rolling news telling us every single day. We have newspapers. We have a digital world that enthuses people. I don't mean enthuses, I mean infuses as an infusion of information.
Yeah.
And people know. So why sport feels it needs to alight upon it, and it doesn't do it very well. And often it doesn't do it in a very educated format. Powerful.
I mean, the message itself has got "Stop killing children."
Yes, of course.
That's hardly an undivisive statement.
And there'll be people that would have said, "Why didn't they do something?" This, I'm not getting into this conversation too deeply, but why didn't they do something directly following October the 7th? Why wasn't that done? So when you get into that argument, why do it? Because there's going to be a section of people that you alienate and a section of people that you ingratiate yourself to. So why does sport just not be neutral about it and be sport? And be simply sport.
You see, now, the way I see it...
I'm being simplistic about it.
But UEFA, Simon's in between a rock and a hard place now. The next time, which will happen sooner than later, a bunch of fans at a certain stadium unfurl a political message.
Well, they will say, I mean, again, I made the point when the fans of the football club that talked about what they were accused of was racism. That's what they were accused of. And for the life of me, I can't understand. What people do in society is when they don't like your argument, they give you a name, which means that if you say something they don't like, they call you a racist. If you say something about a particular community, they call you a bigot or a transphobe or a homophobe. And then you say to them, well, I'm neither. or none of these things. What I have is an argument. Why don't you beat my argument rather than try to diminish me so that my argument has no validity? So that's what people do. And what they called those fans who were saying at the time, we don't want your woke ideologies infusing our whatever the society they were talking about, was that was racist. And there's not a part of me that could understand what part of that was racist. And of course, the people that would then call people racist would then say, I'm a racist for not understanding it was racist, because they're stupid and simple and they can't deal with people's arguments. But to go to the central part of this situation, there is hypocrisy. Hypocrisy reverberates through the governance of sport. Left, right and centre. Double standards.
What do you say to Yas, who's a Liverpool fan? Yas, good morning to you. What are we actually debating here? Regardless of borders, politics or religion, people are getting hurt. People are getting killed. Doesn't matter how. But you have to bring that to light. It's as simple as that.
It is to light. People are not unaware of it. This is not a secret. It is not something that people aren't privy to. So what do we do now? Do we ensure that sport's only focus in life is issues, challenges? Because we can go around the world if you want. We can go to the four corners of the world and we can spend our entire time with a load of issues and a side order of sport. No one is not aware of what's happening in Gaza. No one is not aware of what's happening in Ukraine. Lots of people are not unaware of what's happening in the Yemen. There's a whole raft of people around the world that are fully conversant with all the challenges because we get to see it dawn till dusk. So when do we stop with this and allow people to have respite?
But can you have both? This was pre-match and brief. Then there was a 90-minute match.
Well, if you want
then there were penalties.
If you want to.
And then it was that.
Yeah, if you want to. I maintain...
Football dominated the evening.
Indeed it did, but people will also suggest that if we can have as many causes attached to sport as we possibly can. We've had every single cause, from human rights in Qatar, to LGBT rights, to transgender rights that often are trampling over the real rights of biological women in sport, to all kinds of societal issues. And people really, if you ask the average football fan that's watching this, what would they like to do when they go to football? They'd like to go and watch a game that entertains them and takes them away from the misery of their existence. And I understand what Yaz's argument is. Well, what about these people in Gaza? By the circumstance of birth, they are not able to do that. But the world is an unkind place. It's a cruel place. But people are not unaware of this. And I don't think you're achieving any more awareness by superimposing it across a football stadium. All you're doing is you're creating a situation where football gets leveraged. And I hate it being leveraged, because it isn't just leveraged for causes that, because all these causes are valuable. Every cause that someone talks about, whether it's the abolition of knife crime or the removal of homelessness for veterans, we all know these are valuable causes. But there are certain corners of people's psyche and space that need a respite from the dreadful parts of the world that necessarily...
So if it was you and you were being asked directly, were UEFA right or wrong to do this last night?
I think that sport doesn't do it very well.
Is that a no? They shouldn't have done it.
And I think that I would prefer sport to stay about sport and allow other parts of the world that we're very visibly able to see to promote the injustices, because we're seeing it everywhere we look.
Others will have a different view, and that's what we're all about, because it would be a terrible place if we all agreed on everything. It's Jim White and it's Simon Jordan. We're live in talkSPORT. A lot to get through, so let's get on with it. Music. The NFL returns to Wembley in October as the LA Rams take on Jacksonville Jaguars. And our competition to win VIP tickets is now open. That's right, we're giving you the chance to win 6 seats in a private box at Wembley with full hospitality plus $5,000 spending money. Here's how you can do it. 18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. I don't know what that is, but anyway. For a chance to win, text the word cash to H3338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission, or you can enter for free by calling 0330 880 3338. All the entries must be received by the 25th of August at 11 at night. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions at talksports.com. Let's find out what's going on in the world of transfers right now. talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, the overworked and very much underpaid Alex Crook joins us live. Alex, good morning to you, my friend. Fresh from the Premier League launch yesterday. How did that go?
Yeah, fresh from being batted away by Richard Masters when it came to any kind of question about Manchester City and when we might find out about the outcome of their financial charges. But yeah, no, a good day in Liverpool, home with the Premier League champions. Of course, had a good chat with Howard Webb about some of the new rule changes that are coming in this season. Ian Rush and Chris Kirkland, two former Liverpool players, very confident, I think, about their chances of retaining the title. And of course, it all gets underway for real live on talkSPORT tomorrow when the champions Liverpool entertain Bournemouth on what is sure to be an emotional evening at Anfield.
Well, I know this time last year I was in front of Masters asking him about the latest in the 115 charges facing Manchester City, and I ended up in a similar cul-de-sac to the one you ended up yesterday. So we'll highlight that later on. Alex, we know about outs at Newcastle. What about ins at Newcastle? What are you talking this morning?
Well, I think it's becoming more positive. Obviously, it's been a tough window so far with a lot of targets that they've gone for signing for other clubs. Some targets they've been linked with, like Mark Gay, that actually they weren't at the table for at all. Maybe we'll talk about Mark Gay and a possible move to Liverpool imminently. But they've got Malik Chow now, a centre-back in from Milan, someone they've been tracking for a few windows, and he'll come in as cover for Sven Botman in particular, who has a history of picking up injuries. And it looks like he's accelerating when it comes to Jacob Ramsey at Aston Villa as well, a player that I think in an ideal world Villa would want to keep. But because they missed out in the Champions League last season, they've got some issues when it comes to UEFA's financial rules. And because he's a homegrown player, an academy product, any money they get, and I think the fee will be in excess of £40 million, goes down as pure profit on the balance sheet. And I think this is a player that Eddie Howe can really get the best out of. And obviously for Ramsey, the opportunity to play in the Champions League, which he won't get at Aston Villa next season.
I see. So Newcastle fans should be buoyed up at least that one or two could be imminent coming in. Alex, at the end of the season, I was very honoured to host the Brighton Player of the Year dinner. And on stage with me that night, Carlos Baleba, who was a big favourite, the youngster at the football club. Is he going to be there for much longer?
Well, I think he'll be there for at least one more season, Jim. I know there's been a lot of talk about Manchester United, and clearly Ruben Amorim is a big admirer, and why wouldn't he be? Because he's just the type of player I think that Manchester United have been lacking for a number of years now. But the stance from Brighton and from Tony Bloom in particular is that Baleba is not for sale in this window. Obviously, if United slapped down a bid in excess of £100 million, then maybe Brighton would have some reconsidering to do, but I don't see at the moment all the time. You've still got 4 members of those 5 players in the bomb squad at United still on the books where they're going to get £100 million plus from. I think they feel that if Belieber has the kind of season this year that made him Player of the Year last year, then in 12 months' time they could be talking Moises Caicedo money and doing some inquiries into the character of the player. I don't think we're going to see any Alexander Isak type antics from Carlos Belieber because he's just not that kind of boy.
On Isak, anything new?
Nothing new, Jim. He won't play for Newcastle against Aston Villa live on talkSPORT on Saturday. That is for sure. And then the second game of the season, also live on talkSPORT, is Newcastle against Liverpool. That could be quite a hostile environment, I think, for those visiting Liverpool players, manager Arne Slot and directors. I wonder if anything will change with Isak between now and then. It will depend on Newcastle getting players through the door. No imminent sign that Johan Wissa will happen in time for the weekend either. So fascinating to see who actually ends up leading the line for Newcastle at Villa. One name that keeps cropping up is Samu at Porto, a player who nearly joined Chelsea a couple of windows ago, but I'm told that one is complicated. And then, of course, there's Nicholas Jackson, who we know that Newcastle have interest in and that Chelsea are willing to sell. I think if that was to happen, then maybe Isak to Liverpool could ramp up again. But at the moment, it's all pretty quiet.
Simon, should Liverpool in any way be concerned by the look here? Bidding 110 million, not getting Isak, then it goes all quiet. What do they do next? Stick or twist?
It depends how keen they are to get the player through the door. I mean, they're not keen to spend more money than they have to. I mean, I think the driving force behind this is Newcastle. I mean, I see Alex's characterisation the other day, which is, Liverpool waiting for Newcastle. I mean, well, Newcastle have made their position quite clear, haven't they? I mean, unless they believe that they've significantly weakened the resolve of Newcastle, which I hope they haven't, because the player has started to play hide and seek with himself and start to ramp that up, and Liverpool are waiting for that. And I'm not sure that's the best way to do business. I mean, you either want the player, you try and find a middle mark between what they want and what you want to get a deal done, or you move on. I really do, for the sake of Newcastle United, I really hope that Newcastle really, really make Liverpool pay precisely what they want, or make the player do as he's told and honour his contractual obligations. That's what I hope Newcastle do. I hope Newcastle lose this player or keep this player on their terms.
As for Liverpool, Alex, they got Leone in, am I right? The defender, 18-year-old. Is Gahey going to follow?
Yeah, very highly rated. I spoke to people who've worked with him at Parma, and they're surprised by the fee, £26 million plus add-on. Surprised it's so low, bearing in mind that a lot of top Premier League clubs have made inquiries this summer. He'll be a long-term replacement, I think, for Ibrahima Konate, but the suggestion is that he's going to be part of the first-team picture straight away, flying in for a medical as we speak. In terms of Mark Gahey, I think this is 50-50 as to whether he actually leaves Crystal Palace. Speaking of sources close to the player, they say that he's content, if needs be, to sit on his contract, captain the team for one more year, obviously playing Europe, albeit in the Conference League and not the Europa League, as he'd hoped. And confident and safe in the knowledge that he'll be Palace's first choice defender week in, week out, which will obviously help his claims when it comes to England next summer, not just being on the plane, I think that's a shoe-in, but maybe even starting as England's top central defender. Steve Parish is driving a hard bargain, not just when it comes to Gay, but Eze as well. And I think that's putting off a lot of suitors. So I think at this stage, it's certainly not guaranteed that he leaves. And that would be a nightmare scenario for Palace, that arguably one of their best players is allowed to go on a free transfer at the end of the season.
Would that be a nightmare, Simon, for them?
Well, there's not a lot they can do about it. I don't think they've done anything wrong. I mean, the only thing they could have ever done was sign him on an even longer contract than they signed him on a couple of years ago. I mean, he made the position clear last year that he was not going to be signing a new contract. When all the interest came in from Newcastle last year and Palace were trying to hold out for 65, 70 million quid, he pretty much made it clear, I think we all understood, that that was not going to be a situation where he signed a new contract. So here you are a year later, and it's wonderful, it's lovely that the situation is engineered to a point where he can walk out the door knowing that he's going to play for Palace and not damage himself in any shape or form by not being prepared to move, and then walk out the door, and all of that contractual money that he doesn't have to be paid for a transfer fee will find it some way into his salary. So he's in a wonderful position. I think Palace have got to try and find a way to engineer the deal. And Liverpool's need is now, isn't it?
I mean, should Gahey be doubtful at all or concerned in any way about getting guarantees of game time, Alex? Surely he should just back himself.
Yeah, and he seems the type of character who would, in fairness. I think at the moment the main issue is the asking price, which I'm told still sits at more than £40 million. That's a lot of money to pay for a player you can get on a free transfer at the end of the season. But I guess if you are Liverpool, and Simon's right, they are short-handed at the heart of defence, although Joe Gomez is back in training. How long can he stay fit for is the big question. If you want him that badly, then you might have to put the money down because, of course, in a year's time, as a free agent, you're not just competing with clubs in the Premier League, but I think a lot of big European clubs will look at that situation and maybe be interested as well. So I think it can go either way. As I say, it's 50-50, but it's certainly not a guarantee that he leaves in this window.
Let's just whiz through a couple of topics. Eberechi Eze, is there an update on him at Palace?
We're expecting a bid from Spurs. I don't think they're going to meet the release clause of £68 million that expires tomorrow, but this is a priority position for Tottenham, given they've lost James Maddison and, of course, missed out on Morgan Gibbs-White. I think they're willing to pay between 55 and £60 million. Again, the question for Steve Parish is he willing to do business at that number? From the player side of things, he's keen on the move. It's Champions League football. He gets to stay in London. So if Tottenham can agree a fee, this one could happen.
Can you answer me a
rapidly.
question, Alex? Because you mentioned it twice, and I can't get my head around it commercially, but I'm happy to be educated. What is the purpose of a release clause expiring in the middle of the one time when you can sell a player?
Well, it's obviously agreed between the player and club that if you're not sold by a certain time, then the money goes up. There was a similar situation a couple of years ago with Alexis McAllister that Liverpool actually engineered to their advantage because he had a really low release clause of £35 million that increased on a certain date, and Liverpool made sure they got the deal done before it went up.
Right. Okay, let's finish on Wrexham. Any news there?
Big news, Jim. Huge news in Championship terms. A £10 million club record fee is now in place with Ipswich for Nathan Broadhead to make that move to Wrexham. He's been given permission to undergo a medical, and this is a huge statement of intent from Wrexham. Well, I thought were pretty good, certainly for the first hour of the game at Southampton at the weekend. But when you've got a team coming up from League One who can pay £10 million for a player, I think that's a worry for those sides sort of lower down the Championship food chain. I don't think Wrexham are hanging around this season, and maybe they might leave some of the big boys with bloody noses as well.
Oh, I love that. Alex, well done as always. Alex Crook with what is going on right up to the minute in the world of transfers.
So when is a release clause not a release clause? When the transfer window's open?
I like it. It's 11 o'clock on the dot.
Aguero, Solskjaer, Deeney, Watkins. Sure, you know all about those last-minute goals, but have you heard the one about the on-loan goalkeeper who saved his temporary employers from disappearing out the Football League and into almost certain financial oblivion? Back in 1999, Carlisle United, managed by Nigel Pearson, were fighting to stay in the Football League. Carlisle's finances were precarious with a capital P that season, leading to a scenario where, with 3 games to go, they had to ask the FA to sanction an emergency loan deal to bring in a goalkeeper. Swindon Town's Jimmy Glass arrived at the club. His efforts in his first 2 games earned the Cumbrians 2 draws. Those vital points meant that Carlisle went into their final game of the Division 3 season, now League 2, needing to beat mid-table Plymouth Argyle in front of their own fans and hope their relegation rival Scarborough didn't win against Peterborough at home. The game at the McCain Stadium finished 1-1, and with the same scoreline at Brunton Park deep into injury time, Scarborough's fans invaded the pitch en masse, believing their Football League status was secure, convinced they'd done enough to stay up. However, there'd be one more plot twist. Carlisle won a corner in the dying seconds, and up came Jimmy Glass. In one of those you couldn't make it up moments, Glass scored from a rebounded header and was promptly swamped by teammates and thousands of fans who quite simply couldn't believe what they'd just witnessed. As for Jimmy Glass, he became an overnight celebrity, but he never played for Carlisle again, and his playing career never really kicked on after that defining moment. He took on various jobs outside of football before finding his way back into the sport as player liaison officer at Eddie Howe's Bournemouth, and most recently the general manager at non-league Wimborne. Not the fairy tale ending to one of the most Hollywood moments in football, but the name Jimmy Glass will live on forever as the scorer of that goal, arguably the most important in any club's history.
Good morning, everybody. Thursday, August the 14th. It's Jim White and Simon Jordan, and we are live on talkSPORT as always. We're coming to you live on YouTube and your smart TV from this brand new studio on the 17th floor of the News Building at London Bridge. You can watch the show as well as listen to it, and many of you are doing that, and it absolutely delights us. Later on this morning, certainly before we go at 1 o'clock, we shall be hearing from Danny Murphy, who has had a one-to-one this morning with Arne Slot. Liverpool kick off, of course, tomorrow night. The champions get us underway. They're up against Bournemouth at Anfield. Danny managed to pull off a one-to-one with Arne Slot, and we shall hear some of that before we go at 1 o'clock this morning. In the meantime, of course, it goes without saying, the questions arise. Who are going to challenge Liverpool for the title this season? Will it be the Club World Cup winners, Chelsea? Many Chelsea fans think, yeah, I've got a feeling about this season. Todd Bowley certainly thought that when he spoke to me the other day on this very show. Might it be Arsenal? So recently, the second prize takers, but are Arsenal ready to lay claim to the title themselves this time around? Arsenal legend, certainly a legend, former captain Tony Adams was in front of a live audience in a Q&A over in Ireland just the other night for the Irish Independent. And it got very interesting because they got onto the subject on stage of the Arsenal captaincy, and Tony made it clear it shouldn't be Odegaard, it should be Declan.
He's got a really big call to make this year, and for me, he hasn't done it. And the call is to make Declan Rice the captain. So I think Declan is my kind of captain, and what it might do, it might free Odegaard up to play with a bit more freedom. As a manager, you have to put someone that reflects you, that reflects the football club, that you think you can actually take it to the next level.
Does he reflect Arteta?
Odegaard
Does Declan Rice
for me.
reflect Arteta?
I think he's better than Arteta. I think he's a winner. You know, he's got standards, he's got principles. So going on and winning leagues, to win league titles, you have to be a Klopp, you have to be a Ferguson, you have to lead by example, you have to be a winner, you have to go about your business, and that reflects in your captain. And by making Odegaard a captain is a reflection of Odegaard and of Arteta, and I can really see that. And I'm seeing Declan Rice as a captain, but I'm saying to Arteta, come on, step up now. It's your time to be a winning manager and a fantastic manager, because you're not going to win the league with Odegaard as captain.
No one should ever doubt Tony Adams' passion and sincerity. And he's saying it before a ball is kicked. Is Arteta going to pay any attention to it, Simon? Is he right? Should he shift the captaincy and give it to Declan?
I think there's something to be said. Obviously, the disco dancing routine that Tony Adams did as a manager of Granada will give you the illustrations of the leadership qualities he exhibited as a manager. I think there's some resonance in what Tony says, because you do in life, whether you like it or not, you do associate with things that relate to you or replicate your thinking. And there is an element of Arteta's career which has a touch of mediocrity attached to it in terms of his performance levels at certain clubs, and also the fact he's never really made it as an international footballer. Now, with that in mind, you can see what Tony's digging at, which is that there is an element of that, and Odegaard, Madrid didn't fancy him, so they sold him to Arsenal. If Madrid fancied him, they'd have kept him, wouldn't they? And Arsenal got him when Madrid didn't want him. Madrid win things and Arsenal don't. So there's that sort of understanding of it. Now, whether Declan Rice is a good captain or not, whether he's demanded, whether we believe in this day and age, and Tony clearly does, that footballers and captains are still the same instrumental figures that they once were when he was a captain, when Roy Keane was a captain, when they did the job that managers that often would prefer the players did themselves, which is hold themselves to standards. And the captain does it for you. The captain is an extension of the manager. So things are left unsaid by the manager can be said by the captain.
Right.
Someone that demands. And he was making a case, because I actually listened to the interview that Tony was doing, and I thought a lot of the things he talked about were relevant in terms of if indeed Declan Rice, he of the sideways ball, is indeed going to be that captain that he projects him to be, which is someone that holds others to standards, holds others to a level of expectation, is prepared to go onto a field and make sure that people that come into the team, when they come into the team, understand the environment they're coming into. There is something to be said about that winning mentality. There is something to be said about that exacting set of standards. Declan Rice himself has won very little. So you could make the argument that he isn't a winner because he hasn't won anything. At what point does somebody become a winner? I think a person who's a winner, who's somebody who has very high standards and never drops them. And circumstances dictate that Declan Rice obviously won the European Conference League with West Ham, if you think that's something of significance. I will this season because Palace are in it, but atypically in the past I haven't. The fact is that Odegaard, to me, I don't think is going to make him a better player. I think there's questions about whether Odegaard is actually good enough to take Arsenal to the level they need to be in that position.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tony's at pains to point out Odegaard, he's not a fist-pumping, driving forward of men.
So what's he saying?
Whereas Declan is. Adams was. Keane was.
Yeah, but we also say that
Terry was.
But we also he was, absolutely. John was, and so was Keane. But that was a different time.
So to that extent, yeah, but does that matter?
Well, the question is, does it or doesn't it? Because we get varying arguments. We are guilty in society of being absolutist in our thinking. There is no absolute right and wrong. Right? There's good captains that say very little and lead by example. I don't think Bobby Moore was a great shouter and barracker of players.
Sure.
I think he was an example for people to how to conduct oneself on a football field and how to show excellence at most times. But there were other players that were very gesticulative. Keane being an example. Keane being someone that was an extension of the manager. And if Declan Rice is that, then it might have merit. But you've also got a dressing room now, and it was in Tony's time too, that's more full of different cultures and different nations inside it that have different ways of approaching football. So I think leadership is something the manager's fundamental responsibility. What he's saying is, if you are a leader, you naturally install a leader as your captain. And he's questioning whether Arteta is a real
Tony's
leader.
actually taking it to taking his argument to the nth degree Tony Adams is saying if you get the right captain, that captain can take your side to the Premier League title.
Yeah, but that's
at the moment, Odegaard won't. At the moment, in Tony's view, Declan will.
Well, yeah, but that's assuming that Arsenal operate in a vacuum. That's assuming that Liverpool are going to be asleep at the wheel. That's assuming...
of course, he can only talk for Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the teams that have won the Premier League, and you look at them and say, well, the great captains. I think Jordan Henderson was a good captain for Liverpool when they won the Premier League during the COVID year. And I think, was Virgil van Dijk captain last year for Liverpool?
Of course,
right,
Virgil.
So I think Virgil van Dijk is a good captain.
Of course.
And I don't know whether Virgil van Dijk is the kind of captain that remonstrates and demonstrates, but I know that he's a very powerful figure on the field in terms of his own performance.
Yeah.
And you look at whoever else has won them. You know, you look at Manchester City when they won the Premier League. I don't really recall their captain being prevalent. I think their coach and the best players on the field all being of a high standard.
He had a variety of captains.
Sure, but so which is it then? Is it a variety of captains or is it a captain?
In some ways,
I'm putting himself in a position.
I'm looking at a lot of messages coming in, Simon. There's Derek. I love Big Tony, but I think he's crossing the line here, talking like this in the limelight. It begs the question, he's a club legend.
He's allowed to have an opinion, isn't he?
Should they be offering up what potentially could be deemed as a bit of a disruptive opinion? Or should he keep his counsel?
Well, is he a club ambassador? Is he employed?
Well, he's urging, presumably is, he's urging Arteta to change his mind about Odegaard and give it to Declan.
Well, I think he's entitled to a view. I think he steps to the line when he talks about mediocrity of Arteta. And he refers to that. And I think that's where he steps over the line and looks and puts his little Chad nose over the top of it. But I think
he does.
I think a little bit to suggest that. I mean, he would know what mediocrity in management terms was because he exhibited it in terms of his tenures at Wickham and Portsmouth and wherever, and Azerbaijan and Granada, and even when I interviewed him for a job, he exhibited certain characteristics.
You interviewed him?
Yeah, on the phone. Years and years ago when he was doing his very best Friedrich Nietzsche and Arsene Wenger impression. And once you'd taken the Nietzsche book out of his backside and started talking like Tony Adams, it was a far better conversation. But notwithstanding that, there's no doubt Tony Adams was a leader on the field. There's no doubt.
Of course.
If you could have as many Tony Adams as a field you possibly can. But to assume that in this day and age, with this generation of footballer, this way of thinking that footballers have, that all of a sudden, out of the ether, Declan Rice is going to be the difference between winning the league and not winning the league. Will he be a better captain than Odegaard? We don't know until we give him the opportunity. Is it broken? Is Odegaard as a captain fundamentally broken? Were they just beaten by a better side last night and the lack of availability of strikers and not buying when they needed to buy at the right times to give them the opportunity to kick on? I'm not sure the answer to that. I'm prepared to indulge Tony's opinion, let it stand up, let it distill itself. I don't think it should be cast aside as being absolutely irrelevant. I don't think it should be alighted upon as being a massive insight. I think it's up there for a conversation, which is what we're doing. And I don't know whether Declan Rice is going to be a great captain until he gets the opportunity.
Let's put it out there. Arsenal fans listening this morning, certainly Tony Adams is one of your own and you'll love the lad. But you heard him there speaking and he spoke with real passion and sincerity about the captaincy. And in his view, it shouldn't be Odegaard. It should definitely be Declan. And Arteta should listen and change it and give it to him. Is that your view? Do you go with Declan over Odegaard? 03717 223344 81089. Wow, so many of you getting in touch after the comments of Tony Adams over in Ireland at that Q&A session for the Irish Independent, during which Tony made it quite clear, Mikel Arteta, if you're listening, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. I know what's involved in captaincy at a football club, and that captain can take you to the Premier League title. At least the right one can. And in Tony Adams' view, the right one is Declan Rice, as opposed to Martin Odegaard. Rice, who, incidentally, captained West Ham to the Europa Conference League win against Fiorentina. So many of you getting in touch. Having said that, there is Kelechi who's got in touch saying, Tony Adams is wrong here. Odegaard gives his all, just like Declan, but Odegaard would get his vote. What's your take on it all? Is Adams right? And is it right to speak out so close to the start of this new season? Jay is a big Arsenal fan. Jay, good morning. What do you want to say on this?
Morning, guys. Hope we're well. I'm very much torn due to the fact that he was my first ever club captain following Arsenal and kind of getting into supporting a football club while I was growing up and things like that. But I look at it and I think there's a couple of sides to this. Firstly, Odegaard can take that pressure and responsibility. And are we going to say Declan Rice will be as good a footballer if he has to deal with the pressure captain at the same time? All you got to do is look at, for example, Joe Root was not as good as batter as he is at the moment when he was leading England and having to do all the additional responsibilities. The thing that annoys me about Adams's comments is this is a man that was the football club captain but was one of the instigators and the ringleaders over the Tuesday Club, which was as infamous as it comes. So are we saying that that's what a football club captain is supposed to be in the modern day? I think Simon's point about it, saying that football has moved on, we're not in the Tuesday Club anymore, and if that's the sort of person that he thinks should be leading a football club, I think he is outspoken and mistaken on that point. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Well, it's a good point.
I think that's fair and unfair in equal measure.
Yeah.
I think the comparison with the cricket captain is probably slightly flawed because the cricket captain has far more responsibility on a field than a football captain has in terms of the different nuances and peculiarities of setting a field, dealing with bowlers, dealing with a whole raft of different things that are far more onerous than what a football captain has to do, which is probably just control the minds of a few players during the course of a game and hold a few of them to standards. The second thing is, at the time, and I understand your point of view, entirely the point that you're making, which I think is very relevant. But Tony Adams, pre the drinking Tony Adams, post the drinking Tony Adams, were two different animals. And then he became a Wenger disciple. So everyone makes mistakes in life. And the culture of English football at that time was beset with it. It was the culture of English football that people behaved in a certain way. The racing post was a staple diet. The golf shop or the golf course and a betting parlour was the next best place for footballers to be at. And there was a drinking culture, and Adams formed part of it. And after that, he changed his perspective, changed his outlook, changed his disposition, and became a completely different animal. So I think it's slightly unkind and unfair just to make it about Tony Adams at that time being the architect behind the Tuesday Club.
Jay, do I detect you're somewhat split, though, on who it should be?
No, I mean, I think our club captain for everyone in the team, and the other players respond best to.
Right, we just heard that. I'm going to move on. Dave's a big Arsenal fan. Dave, good morning. Adams, right or wrong?
Adams is 100% right.
Go on, tell me why, Dave.
Well, I don't think Odegaard has been the same player since he's been captain. The last couple of seasons, his goals, his assists have not been there. I think the captaincy weighs a lot on his mind.
Do you go the whole way, Dave? With Adams, he says you get it right with Declan as captain, it could take you to the Premier League title. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
Wow, Dave.
So why is the assumption, just out of curiosity, and I know that Declan captained West Ham to the European Conference League, which is a whole different kettle of fish than the ambitions for Arsenal. Why would it weigh more on Odegaard's mind than it will on Declan Rice's then? Why wouldn't the same logic apply to Declan Rice?
Because I think they're two different characters and two different types of players.
What's the indication for that? We see Declan Rice playing for England. At times, I think he's very pedestrian for England and doesn't do the same things as he does for his captain, for his club. Is that a case of Declan not being able to assert his personality in the international dressing room, or is it a case of he just does as he's told?
Yeah, I don't think he's allowed to do that. I think he's told what to do. With the England set-up, he's told to play in that position and do what he does. With Arsenal, he's got a lot more freedom. And you can tell on the pitch the way he is. He's a captain, simple as that.
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right, but it might have a margin. I mean, there'll be people that turn around once upon a time and said that various. I used the cricket example a moment ago to defeat an argument, but cricket captains that were translated from being top players that people thought were going to be good captains, all of a sudden didn't turn into good captains. And what I don't want to do is Declan Rice be in the same conversation in a year's time where people are saying, actually, he lost 10% of his game by being a captain because he found the responsibility a little bit diminishing of his
Maybe
own
that's a risk you take. Leon, big Arsenal fan. So many of you getting in touch and we love this. Tony Adams, Declan for him. Is it Declan for you?
No, I think that morning, gents.
Morning.
I do think that the captaincy's changed from Tony Adams' era of when he was playing. We've seen over a number of years that managers are now creating these leadership groups. We've heard it recently with the manager at Man United has come up with a leadership group. We've heard it at Arsenal. So for me, once Declan Rice is part of that leadership group, then I don't think there's really a problem there.
Okay, fair point. We're going to kick on with Matt, who's a big Arsenal fan. Did you like the way Adams addressed this matter, actually, Matt? Or do you think so close to the season is a discussion we shouldn't be having or should be having?
I can't believe any Arsenal fan could disagree with what Adam said. I'm sorry. I can't believe we're having this conversation. He's 100% right. I've grown up in an era of Adams and Vieira as captains, and what I saw last term, performance-wise from Odegaard at certain times, was not a captain. I'm sorry. There were times then last season when we needed a proper leader on the pitch, on and off the pitch. We've had 2 seasons now where we've become yet again nearly men, and I'm sorry, a proper leader in the park, we get more points on the board.
Really? So you think it's that important? Getting the right captain, in this instance Declan, he would take you to the title whereas Odegaard wouldn't?
Let's go through it. Vieira versus Keane, Vieira versus Gerrard. Odegaard's that not type of captain. I understand what Simon's saying, the game has moved on. However, Arsenal have not had a leader since Vieira left, and that is what we are desperately missing. You speak to any true Arsenal fan and they will say the same. Odegaard, fantastic player, love him in our team, but he is not a leader. He would not want someone that I would want to sit in the trenches with as my last man. Whereas Rice, I see that. I see the passion. It's almost more of an English culture thing, I think, that Adams is talking about what it means to be a captain.
Do you think that what Tony was alluding to has some merit in it? He's basically saying that Arteta won't put Rice as a captain because Arteta himself isn't a natural leader and suffers from mediocrity, so he only puts a person in a position of influence that replicates the same outlook that he has.
I have to be careful here because I admire Arteta as a manager and I do trust him. However, there are times last season where Arteta faced hard questions and he went hiding. He came up with excuses. So quite possibly, yes, Adams does have a point. How many?
But don't they all? I mean, didn't Wenger, who led you to great successes, constantly never saw anything, never had a comment to make when it was something controversial about Arsenal? So don't they all of it, even Klopp, they all do the same thing. Guardiola as well.
Towards the end of, again, we're not necessarily talking about managers, we're talking about leaders, but even if you look at Wenger, he always had a great leader. He had Adams and then he had Vieira. A leader for me is, I've grown up, I've been lucky enough to grow up with proper leaders. Vieira, Keane, Gerrard.
But they tend to be under great leadership management, i.e. you don't look at the Liverpool side of the 70s and think Bill Shankly and Bob Paisley weren't good leaders. No. You don't look at Forrest and say Clough wasn't. You don't look at Ferguson at United.
In answer to your question, the fact that Arteta can't select a good leader, does that make Arne Slot a better manager in his first season because he's got Virgil van Dijk to lead his team for him?
Well, he's just a lucky sob with what he got, though, wasn't he? Let's be honest.
Matt, let's finish with this. Does Declan fit the bill as a captain?
I absolutely love Rice, baby. 100%.
Does Odegaard?
For me, fantastic player, not a leader.
Matt, thanks for the call. Thanks to all of you. So many calls coming in on that. We'll watch with interest if Declan does get his hands on that armband very closely. We're at 11:30.
Shin pads are a footballer's best friend. Even if players like Jack Grealish do wear such small ones you can barely even see them. But what's the story with shin pads, and are there actually any rules on how big they should be? It all started with cricket, actually. Cricketers had been wearing shin pads since the 1700s. It was thanks to this guy that shin protection made its way over to football. Meet Samuel Widdowson. He was a cricketer and a footballer. He played for Nottingham Forest back in the late 1800s, and he wanted a way to protect his legs from nasty tackles. Naturally, his mind drifted to his other favourite sport, where players had been wearing these pads for a century. Story goes, Widdowson cut up his cricket pads and popped them on before taking to the footy pitch. His Nottingham Forest team then began wearing them from 1887, and the first known use of them in a match was in 1894, in a match between Newcastle and the then Woolwich Arsenal. Eventually, FIFA clocked on that this kind of protection was pretty important for footballers. And so, in 1990, basically 100 years after Widdowson first put them on, shin pads were made compulsory. It became part of Law 4 of IFAB. That's the body responsible for setting the laws of the game internationally. But the law doesn't actually specify anything about measurements of shin pads. It just says they must be made of a suitable material and be of an appropriate size to provide reasonable protection. It's really vague, even though there have been calls for it to be changed. But for now, that's why Grealish and co can still get away with these ones, which are no bigger than a credit card and which seem to offer little to no protection whatsoever.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
It's that time, and our favourite lad at BetMGM, Sean Martin, joins us now. We look at the latest odds round about the big sporting events. Sean, good morning to you. PSG beat Tottenham on pens and they won the cup, the Super Cup last night. What's your thinking?
Morning, guys. Dramatic Super Cup, which in the end went the way of the Champions League holders for the 12th time in 13 seasons. It was over 4-1 for a draw in 90 minutes when I spoke to you guys yesterday, and a 2-2 draw specifically was a 12-1 shot. Now Spurs have to go from playing the European champions on Wednesday night to playing last year's Championship runners-up on Saturday afternoon. It's a flip of the script for them in terms of the odds. They're 4-11 favourites. Burnley, the massive underdogs, at 7-1. A big season ahead generally for Thomas Frank and co. Obviously to improve on the 17th place finish, but also how they juggle Champions League football after that Europa League win as well. Also this weekend, the team Spurs beat in that Europa final. Man United face a difficult start at home to Arsenal. They're 13-5 underdogs at Old Trafford, though you can get Arsenal at a shade over evens as well. Plus it's over 2.5-1 for the draw, which is catching my eye, I must admit. The prevailing narrative there, not only United's new look front three, but Arsenal's new striker. Victor Yoka scored 66 goals in 68 games under Ruben Amorim at Sporting, I'm reliably informed. He lines up against him on Sunday, 6-4 to score anytime, or just under 4-1 first goal scorer, lads.
So if we're looking, Sean, at how the Premier League and the title race might evolve, do you want to give us the runners and the riders? Are you in a position to do that for us? I mean, Liverpool kick it off tomorrow night against Bournemouth. Many people are telling me it's Chelsea's time. What's your thinking?
I've got a sneaking suspicion for Man City, I must admit, but Liverpool 7-4 favourites, Arsenal 9-4, then it's Man City at 3-1, Chelsea 15-2, Man United 20-1, and then it's all the way back at 50s for Newcastle, Tottenham, and then 80-1 for Aston Villa.
15-2 for Chelsea, Simon.
Yep.
I mean, you've always told me that keep your eye on Chelsea, and we did, and they won 2 trophies last season.
Indeed, but I also tipped them to win the Premier League in the next 3 years. But that's the problem I've got. I've got some credibility in the fact that they're not quite the car crash that everyone thought they were going to be by winning competitions, but I need them to come good in the league to have some validity in my thinking.
Okay. Sean, we're looking at the boxing this weekend. I know you want to expand a bit on this. Moses Atoma, Dillian White, 7:30, Saudi Arabia, and it's live in the talkSPORT network. Where do you want to take us on this one?
Yeah, so Simon, we spoke a bit about Atoma White and Adelaide Hergovic a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
The odds haven't changed too much for either bout. Atoma 10-1 on. White, the body snatcher. That's the body snatcher, not the baby snatcher. Now 7.5-1. Hergovic 6-25 and Adelaide in slightly actually from 5 to under 3.5-1. But what we didn't get a chance to mention that day was Nick Ball versus Sam Goodman on the same card.
Yep.
Ball WBA featherweight title up for grabs, and he's shorter than 4-1 on. Goodman 3.5-1, having not only just recently moved up from Super Bantam, but fighting outside of Australia for the first time as well. I want to give you my accumulator for fight night in a wee second, guys, but just to give Nick Ball his dues a wee bit first, Simon, he's phenomenal to watch. If he does do the business against Goodman, I'm curious what you think's next for him. Is it a unification fight in UEFA if he moves up?
Well, that's what I mean. Obviously, Nick was fabulous in the two fights. One that he was robbed of when he beat Ray Vargas and should be holding that belt. And obviously, then he went in and beat what people thought was a more difficult opponent, which was Ray Ford. He went and won that. Yeah. Since then, he's had two fights, which I think, with all due respect to Nick, have been slight gimmies. I think Ronnie Rios was a number 15 in the world, was a fight they could make. They gave him a homecoming in Liverpool, and I understood that. TJ Dahoney was a decent fight, but again, I think they're levels below Nick. Sam Goodman is a decent fighter. He's a come-forward fighter, but I think there are levels between him and Nick that Nick will show on Saturday night. What I want to see him do is I want to see him do the very thing that you just mentioned, which is fight Espinoza, fight Angelo Leo, or fight Stephen Fulton and get one of those other belts. Now, Frank's saying they're difficult fights to make. Everyone's now leading towards the conclusion that he's going to fight the monster of the lesser weights, which is Inouye, and get paid for it. That, to me, presents a different problem. I think in that instance, Nick will find it a very difficult night's work. I think he can win most of the belts in his weight class. It's whether he can get these other champions into a ring, which Frank Warren keeps on saying to me is a problem because they don't want it. They keep ducking Nick. So Nick has to keep taking these fights. Sam Goodman is a decent fighter, but there are levels, as the boxers themselves will tell you at, and I think Nick Ball's on a different level to Sam Goodman, but I think it will still be a decent fight because there's not a fight that Nick Ball's in that isn't a decent fight.
Yeah, to be fair, I would love to see Vargas again. He's meant to be fighting Carlos.
He's a champion in recess, isn't he?
He's sitting in recess, yeah. But he's meant to be fighting Carlos Castro this month, though the details are a bit scarce. I can't really find
I'd love to see Nick Ball go back in and right that wrong, because that was robbery. And then we had to listen to Ray Vargas talk about Nick Ball having home advantage in Riyadh, which no one could quite understand.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, that split decision draw, it is the only blemish on his record. I think most folk would agree on it. I feel for him. I do feel for him. Obviously, he's a world champion. He became a world champion after that. But yeah, my accumulator for fight night. So I'm thinking, funnily enough, the man you mentioned there who's lost to Nick Ball, I'm thinking Ray Ford to beat Abraham Nova by decision. Hergovic, Adelaide not to go the distance. Nick Ball to win by decision, and Atoma White to go over 4.5 rounds. That's 18-1 as it stands, Simon. Aware there's a couple of risky shouts in there, but what do you reckon? Where does it fall down? What one ruins my night?
The Adelaide Hergovic fight not going the distance.
Who wins that?
Yeah.
Actually, no. Thinking about it, you're probably right, because the only way Adelaide's going to win this fight, I think, is by stopping Hergovic. The question is whether Hergovic can stop David Adelaide, because Hergovic tends to go long into fights. When he fought Zhili Zhang, he got him in the last, seconds of the last round or whenever it was. Look, I think they're all reasonable punts, and you guys know what you're doing. You don't put punts out there so that people can make money off you. You put punts out there so you can make money. Exactly. I think there's some great fights. I'm fascinated by all of them. I'm just desperate to see. I don't want to be disrespectful to Dillian, and I've made observations about it's good night for Mr. White, and there's not the train. It's not the light end of a tunnel, Dillian. It's a train with Moses Atoma's name on it. But I really want a good fight. I really want Dillian to bring back some of the old Dillian White and make Moses Atoma really have to be in a fight, so we get some real answers and some real understanding of how good this kid's going to be, rather than the wrecking ball that we see currently that is now being amped up as the best thing since sliced bread. I think he is, but I really want to see it be a fight that has real jeopardy in it, because then it'll be really worth watching, rather than a 2-round demolition that Dillian White at this stage in his life and with the career that he's had probably doesn't deserve.
Okay, I tell you what caught my eye during all of that chat with you and Sean was your blonde quiff. It's actually it's extremely impressive, Simon.
Is it?
This morning.
Okay.
I assume you're talking to Simon there and not Regia.
Yeah, the days of you having a quiff long gone.
Well, he's not talking to himself either, is he?
This is true. What about the New Zealand Darts Masters, Sean?
Yep, it's the last World Series event before the finals next month, which is a major. It's in Auckland, so early morning matches tomorrow for us here in the UK. 8 PDC players and 8 Oceanic representatives. It's part of an Antipodean doubleheader with Luke Littler winning the Australian event last week, which was actually his first World Series win this year. He heads up the betting at 5-4. Defending champion Luke Humphries is there at 9-2, but he's been reportedly suffering from an illness lately, which is one to think about before backing him. Given his form throughout the World Series events this year, Stephen Bunting at 12-1 could be good value, even each way. At a third of the odds for making the final. He's been the man in the World Series this year. He's won 2 and got to the final of another 2 as well. Other outright or each way shouts to look at, you could be looking at Australia's Damon Heta, world number 10. Feels like he's not too far away from another big televised tournament, and he's 16-1 for this one, guys.
Sean, marvellous. Thank you so much. Remember, visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18 plus, gambleaware.org.
Friends of roundup there from Sean at BetMGM.
Good, isn't he?
Very good indeed. Remember, there's in the final hour today, we're going to put some more meat in the bones to that huge night of boxing coming up from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. We'll head out there for the final hour. And before we go today, and I'm hearing that he's done it, and I'm hearing that it's some various good points within it. Danny Murphy has had a very interesting sit down with Arne Slot this morning, and we'll take some of the key points from that and bring them to air before we go at 1 o'clock.
Business Briefing on talkSPORT with Tesco Mobile for Business. Got a side hustle providing doggy daycare? Take the lead with business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big three networks. For verification, see tescomobile.com/business.
And it's that time for us to round up some of football's top business stories with Tesco Mobile for Business. And today we're going to discuss some of the goings-on at the Premier League launch. That was a gathering in the northwest of the great and the good in the game, not least the man at the top of the Premier League, who is Richard Masters. And I went along to it this time last year, and the same Richard Masters, when I tried to push him on where are we at with the 115 charges facing Manchester City, said he couldn't tell me, couldn't speak about it. And that was the situation at that time. Exactly 12 months on, forget me, and many of you would be happy to do that. Think of Alex Crew sitting in front of Richard Masters yesterday, and the self-same question came up. Where are you at with the charges, 115 of them, facing Manchester City?
The way the rules are structured, I mean, just to explain, I can't talk about the process or any process, frankly, apart from when charges are originally brought, and then I have to make those public, and when a decision is handed down, and eventually that decision will be published in some way. The bit in between is entirely confidential, and it's not appropriate that I speak about it. The other thing I think is the independent nature of the judicial panel we appoint. We have nothing to do with the appointment of those people. There are three independent people that hear the case, and they decide, and they have to write the judgment down, and that's the job they're doing at the moment. I'm sorry that I can't. I can't provide any information. The only time I can speak about it is when a decision is handed down. I can't talk about when that might be, and so there's very little I can update on.
It's almost a carbon copy, Simon, of the answer that Richard Masters gave me 12 months ago. Should he and the Premier League and its brand feel comfortable that we're going to another season without any movement regarding this?
Look, the whole situation will have a degree of discomfort, because you look at the scenario and say, what good is it doing to have this drag on for the level of time that is dragging on? The answer to the question is he responsible for the challenges that are being brought forward? And he talks about, it's not my gift to talk about the independent panel. Well, you appoint them. So whilst you don't have to talk about them, you do appoint them. And the terms in which you ask them to be appointed are under your governance as the head of the Premier League. And the charges that you bring as a Premier League are under your governance. So then you pare it back and you go, why did you bring 115 charges? Why would you go to that level? That's ridiculous to some extent, because there's no way that an independent panel can consider 115 charges over a period of time without having to consider every single one on its own individual merit, even if they're replicated charges, even if they're fruit of the same poison tree, i.e. you repeated the misstatement of one year's financials on the next year, so you get another charge for it. So you're putting an independent panel into a position of achieving 115 charges and having to do each one individually. Otherwise, the legal team of Man City are going to alight upon one charge that you didn't consider properly. So you have to have a written judgment on each and every charge. Secondly, why didn't you dictate to the independent panel the time that you want them to spend on this? Because we don't know what the independent panel are doing elsewhere. They probably are doing a whole raft of things elsewhere, and then maybe that's the reasons why it's taking this amount of time for them to give their verdicts upon things, because they are sitting there probably having to take a week. The rule of thumb tends to be, for every charge that you have, it's not unreasonable to assume there's a week allocated to a judgment for that charge. Now, if you've got 115 charges, go work that out as to what that's likely to take. 2.5 years to be able to give a judgment on the basis of 115 charges. Now, it won't take that long, but it's a reasonable rule of thumb that suggests it could. So the problem for Masters, and it feels like I'm being very critical, it's a very difficult job if you're not really, really, really good. Scudamore was really, really good, and myself and Richard didn't always see eye to eye, and every time I bump into him, he tries to give me a wide berth. It may be because I questioned a bonus that he got in 2004 via David Gill, who was the head of a remuneration committee that was giving him a bonus for getting a new Sky contract. Maybe that's part of it. But he managed to keep order. He managed to keep very difficult people in order. Scudamore. And Masters is no Scudamore. But Scudamore doesn't have quite the same challenges that Masters has. And in order for Masters to overcome these challenges, he needed to be the best in class in every aspect of the business that he was in, or get people around him that were. So and he's done neither.
If it was Scudamore, answering the same questions that Alex Crook was putting to him yesterday, would we get some answers?
But he wouldn't have to have answered the questions in the way that he's having to answer them now. I doubt they'd have brought 115 charges against Man City. They'd have refined it and gone, what are the charges that we really want? What do we really want Man City for? If we're going to go after Man City, what do we want them for? We want them for these 10 charges. It's these 10 charges that we want them for. So we'll sacrifice the other grandstanding showboating that's damaged everybody, including the Premier League, by going after 115 charges, and we'll go for these 10, right? Which can consider it. And by also what we'll be doing is going to an independent panel. We're going to engage you. We're going to pay you whatever it takes. We're going to go to the club and tell the clubs that ultimately this is the cost implications of this. Be prepared for this because we act for you. All of you tub thumpers, all of you people and people like Daniel Levy that want these people potentially brought to book. And I don't bring Daniel in lightly, but I know that there's a thought process that they want to make sure that people are judged fairly. I'm not saying that they believe they're guilty, but I think they were quite vociferous in saying that there's a reason for Man City to be investigated. I think, and with that in mind, that it should have been the Premier League should have been presenting to the 20 clubs, whoever was at time in the league. This is the likely cost implications of it, and then presenting to the independent panel. Right, we want you to do this, and we're prepared to allocate this amount of time, and we want an answer back from you in this amount of time, post all the presentations, post all of the hearings, post all of the representations from the various panels.
Yeah.
Once they sat, and once they're adjudicated, it should have been determined in a window of time that the Premier League said to the independent panel, or they didn't engage that independent panel, they engaged another one that could work within that time frame. And that is why Richard Masters has dropped the ball here, and that is why he can't answer any questions. And the confidentiality side of things is nothing to do with it. No one's asking him to give a verdict on the judgment. What they're asking to session, why is it taking so long? Why did you bring 115 charges? Why did you need to do that? Why are you allowing an independent panel not to be? What were the terms of reference that you gave them? Didn't you give them a timeline? And they answer those questions, Masters, and then you'll get an answer. He can't answer those questions because he knows that he'll put himself right in the frame for people to say, well, you're not good enough at your job.
So basically, to break it down, you're saying that Masters in the Premier League should have controlled this a lot more.
It's not easy being Richard Masters, but you need the best in class. And with due respect, and I know it alienates me from ever having conversations with the Premier League or ever having a meaningful dialogue in a radio studio with them, but I'll give up on that a long time ago. Not good enough. They're not good enough. And it's not me that people will say, you're a failed football club owner, what do you know? Well, I know what failure and success look like. And I know what good and bad looks like because I've been both. And I know that this isn't good enough. It's not good enough in the way they charge Man City with the amount of charges they brought to them. It's not good enough how they controlled the process. It's not good enough how they engaged the independent commission. And that's why you've got uncertainty, and that's why you've got a situation that's taking forever and a day to conclude.
Manchester City, of course, maintain their innocence in this whole matter. We also got onto the topic yesterday, or Alex did, regarding the possibility of a Premier League match being played stateside or certainly overseas, because we know that's happening in La Liga, although Real Madrid are kicking up about it. But it's looking like December for Villarreal up against Barcelona in Miami. Should the Premier League look at what La Liga are doing and think, yeah, we'll have some of that? This was Masters.
Nothing has changed. I mean, we don't have any plans to look at games abroad. We haven't talked about it around our shareholders' table. La Liga have been very open about their desire to play matches abroad. The local federation have approved it. I still have to get Confederation and FIFA's approval to do it, so there's some way to go before that ever becomes reality, but it hasn't changed our perspective on it at all. And I think if you mentioned the 39th game, I remember it, the controversy it created, but really the objective behind it was to grow the Premier League abroad and around the world, and I think we've done that without needing to play matches abroad. The Premier League is now genuinely global. It has billions of followers around the world. We're really proud of that, and so things have changed.
Things have changed. We don't need to do it.
Well, he would say that, wouldn't he? First of all, I don't think he's right. It doesn't. FIFA's already had their regulation overturned and challenged through the legal system, which is why relevant sports were able to achieve an outcome which enabled Spanish teams to play in there. So I don't think it requires FIFA's permission. So I think he's wrong there. I think he's also quite right to suggest from a lofty position that we have achieved what we want to achieve. You wait to La Liga and Serie A start taking bite-sized chunks at the Premier League's backside in terms of global revenues and see how quickly the Premier League adapts. He's going to take the position of the market leader, which is, we're the market leader. These guys are the followers. Of course they're going to run around and make themselves busy and try to create some of the crumbs off the table that we may leave for them. But believe me, he won't be that dismissive internally. The outward-facing perspective will be, We're the market leaders in domestic football. We've achieved broadcast deals around the globe that all the other leagues can only dream of. And we don't need to be the Harlem Globetrotters. So we're not going to hawk our mutton around the world just like the Spanish clubs do because they're trying to get a few bob on the table. We've already got that. But internally, they will be looking at the mechanisms of how they can create relationships with overseas entities that enables a competitive game to be played but isn't perhaps a Premier League game. Because otherwise, they're going to allow other leagues to steal a march. And that's what they're trying to do. That's what Tebas is trying to do. He's trying to get some opportunity. And interestingly, the fascinating thing is that Real Madrid are pushing back against it.
They are.
This is the same Real Madrid, by the way, that were the intellectual capital behind the Super League. Just so we're clear on the hypocrisy of that position.
Exactly. Villarreal, meantime, are all for it. Their president, Fernando Roig, has announced that Villarreal Barcelona will be played in Miami and that all their season ticket holders who want to go can go, and they'll pay for it. Free travel to the match along with a free ticket. That's how much they've invested in the whole concept of that. It is Jim White and it's Simon Jordan. We're about to get into the final hour. In the meantime, that was a roundup of football's top business stories with Tesco Mobile for Business.
Business briefing on talkSPORT with Tesco Mobile for Business. Got a side hustle providing doggy daycare? Take the lead with business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big three networks. For verification, see tescomobile.com/business.
Just about into the final hour here with Simon and myself live on talkSPORT. We will talk boxing in the company of Duke McKenzie. We're also going to hear from Arne Slot, who's been in discussion this morning with our own Danny Murphy. In the meantime, the sports headlines at 12 noon. Here's Nick Ellaby.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Supporting van owners to get the job done. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon. The man accused of driving his car into Liverpool fans at the club's Premier League victory parade in May is facing 24 new charges. 53-year-old Paul Doyle from West Kirby has already been charged with wounding with intent, GBH with intent and attempted GBH. Some of the complainants are children. He'll be back in court to enter a plea on September the 4th. Now, ahead of the new season, it's unclear whether Mark Guéhi will move to Liverpool. Arne Slot says we should ask Crystal Palace for more info on that, and he's told talkSPORT it's no excuse, but his squad will need more time to mesh this season.
The playing style between Jurgen and me is not so different that it takes ages for them to be adapted to.
Yes.
Now players need to adapt to each other, and we also brought different profiles in.
You can hear more from that exclusive talkSPORT interview from 12:45 today on White and Jordan. Liverpool kick off the new Premier League season against Bournemouth, live on talkSPORT tomorrow night. Meanwhile, Chelsea's players are donating some of their Club World Cup prize money to the family of Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva. They received a bonus pot of over £11 million. We understand Spurs are set to bid for Crystal Palace's Eberechi Eze, and despite Tottenham letting a 2-goal lead slip to lose the Super Cup final to PSG, some Spurs fans are feeling positive.
We were shambolic last year. We couldn't defend for toffee. And this year we were scoring from them and we didn't concede from... There was not even a clear-cut chance from a corner. So we were, the difference is so big compared to last season.
And as Johan Wissa pushes for a move to Newcastle, new Brentford manager and former set-piece coach Keith Andrews has reminded Sam Matterface 7 of Wissa's 19 goals last season came from dead ball situations.
He owes me, really, so he shouldn't be going anywhere, Sam, to be blunt. Listen, on a serious note, I have got a good relationship with him. Has the last few weeks been ideal? No, of course it hasn't.
You can hear that full interview tomorrow on Matterface Crookendini from 10 a.m.
talkSPORT News.
The number of students getting top grades in their A-levels has gone up again this year, and Ukraine's president is meeting the Prime Minister in a show of solidarity ahead of the Trump-Putin summit tomorrow. Emma has more in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. With our wide range of services on offer, including tyres, MOTs, servicing and brakes, you can drive away happy every time.
Another dry day for most of us. Warm in the sunshine, a few heavy, maybe thundery showers in northern areas with the odd light shower in the west.
Good afternoon, everybody. 4 minutes past 12 noon. It is now officially Thursday lunchtime. This is Thursday, August the 14th. We are flying through the month, are we not? It's Jim White and it's Simon Jordan, and we are live on talkSPORT. We're also streaming live on YouTube and your smart TV. What does that do? Well, it means you can watch us as well as listen to us. For all the information on how to watch a show, just head to talksport.com/watch. A lot to get through in the final hour, and this Saturday, talkSPORT brings you live commentary of the heavyweight clash between Moses Itoma and Dillian White out in Saudi Arabia.
A lot of people are basically just saying, like, yeah, I'm going to knock him out.
Moses Itoma can take him out right now.
And, like, I probably would.
Everyone tells me that he is the future.
This kid is going to be the next face of British boxing.
I've said this from the beginning, from when he was 18, 19. He's it. He is it.
Moses Itoma!
I keep proving people wrong, and it's kind of weird. I'm going to have to prove them right this time.
Continue. Moses Itoma
ready to dust up and have it.
This fight here, make a break.
Let's go! I'm ready!
Oh yeah, it's just about upon us. Itoma against White. We eagerly await this one. I know this fella does. Joining Simon and myself this lunchtime in studio, 3-weight world champion turned talkSPORT pundit. We managed to turn them. talkSPORT pundit Duke McKenzie joins us live in studio. Duke, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Good to see you, champ.
You love talking boxing, and I've seen you do it with the man Jordan on Talk Boxing. You love your sport. You love being able to talk about it still, Duke.
I love boxing. It's my life. It's been my life since the age of 13. So I'm 62 now, and I think to myself, it's what I've done. It's who I am. It's my identity.
Yeah. You don't look 62, Duke.
Yeah, I keep fit. I do one jog a week. I do one gym session a week, but I'm consistent with it. Do you know what I mean? I don't miss a week. Even in the winter, I just carry on. And you've got to look after yourself as you get older, don't you?
See, Simon, dedication.
Absolutely.
It's good, isn't it?
Simon's dedicated.
Thank you, Jim.
He's a fit guy.
Indeed.
Itoma White, how do you see this playing out, Duke?
It's a good fight. It's a sort of fight that really Itoma should be taking at this stage in his career. He's had a dozen fights, right? And you can't risk him too much. And when you look at Dillian White and where he's come from and where he's been, you know, he's been there, seen it and done it. And there's a lot of miles on the clock now, as I'm sure we are all well aware. And when I listen to Dillian White talk now, he sounds tired. He sounds almost, not fed up, that's not the right word, but he's tired with it all. He's been there, he's seen it.
Disillusioned.
I don't know if disillusion is the right word, Simon. He just seems really fed up. Do you see what I mean? Like he can't be bothered with it all. And I think, you know.
Have you seen anything different in his reaction as the week's gone on? Because obviously there's a lot of noise. I've seen him push back against some of the narrative. Obviously he didn't like being called a baby snatcher by the announcer, which made no sense whatsoever. But he has been pushing back and saying that all you lot are writing me off, all you so-called experts, some of you that have never laced up gloves, you know, it's done. He's a Superman. Is that what you mean by when he sounds dispirited?
Yeah.
Or is it just a general disposition that he has full stop?
No. I think by talking like that, and, you know, saying to everybody, you know, you've never done it and, you know, you don't know what it feels like. That I can remember being in probably my last 1 or 2 fights, and that's pretty much the attitude I'd had. Do you see what I mean? You get to a point where you just go, I've kind of just had enough. Can't be bothered to do it all again. You know, the pushing, the shoving, the table flipping, all that sort of thing. You know, I'll just try and do what I can on fight night.
What do you make of it that he seems to be... I mean, the reports coming out of Saudi from Spencer and others and lots of people around him is that he's in really good nick physically, in the best shape they've seen him in before, i.e. really toned, lighter than he's been before. I mean, that to me means he wants to perhaps keep out of the way and be able to move. I mean, what do you make of that side of the argument?
Dillian White will have to try his best to make this fight go for as long as he can. But in doing so, his body just won't carry him anymore. It's okay, you know, running, and it's okay going to the gym and get yourself in the best kind of possible shape. But when you get to his age and you've had that many fights, it's taxing on the body. It's really tiring. Maybe that's why he's talking the way that he does, because he's tired with it. Do you see what I mean?
That is a very interesting take on it. Have a listen to this, actually, Duke. Following what Duke is saying there, Dillian White, of course, has been in conversation with our lads out in Saudi. Judge for yourself. How does he sound to you? This is White.
This is a huge step up for him. Like, you know, where
really?
Like, it's a what for absolutely for Moses Atama. This is a huge step up.
I don't think so. Everyone's you know, according to you and your other colleague and the other professional people, is nothing. It's a walk in the park for Moses. You know, people say I get blown in 1 or 2 rounds. You know, that's you guys are the professional. You're the real champion. I'm nothing. So I think it's a step up for to be honest.
Is he at it there, Duke?
I think so.
Is he playing mind games there?
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, because like I say, when I listen to Dillian there, he sounds, like I say, almost fed up. Doesn't want to do the press conferences, doesn't really want to have to talk about the fight anymore. He's been there, seen it and done it. I feel that his only hope, as we're all well aware, is that if he can get lucky, you know. He really could. It's highly unlikely because Moses Atama has already said he's got a game plan. The game plan for him has to be to take Dillian White into the later rounds, you know, round 6, round 8 of the fight. And by then, Dillian White should have had the living daylights punched out of him and probably get stopped around that mark.
Do you think that's the game plan for them, to take Dillian into the later stages of the fight? I mean, ultimately, what we've seen from Moses Atama is everybody gets in a ring with him, gets knocked out and gets knocked out pretty quick. Now, I know that the only strategy won't be just to knock someone out, but conventional wisdom looks at it and goes, Atama gets people out fast. Are you saying that they've now trying to add a layer to him, or they're giving Dillian White due respect, or what is it you're saying?
A little bit of both. They're trying to give him the respect that he deserves. He's a puncher, if nothing else, Dillian White. He can hit really hard, and you never lose your punch power. Doesn't matter how unfit or fit you are. As a heavyweight, you never lose your power. So they'll be giving him quite a lot of respect, I would imagine. If they don't, more fool them. But I feel that Moses Atama will get to him from about the halfway mark.
If you're Dillian, though, think about the other side of the argument, right? Everyone is raving about Moses Atama. Everyone is talking about him. He's the young man on the block. He's the next superstar. He's being anointed by all of us as the next superstar. You've raised questions about things he's got to learn before he gets to that stage. Aren't you sitting there as the older fella going, oh, well, what am I here for then? Isn't that an element of that? Wouldn't you be a little bit peed off with the fact that it's the Moses Atama show, and I'm the former world title challenger. I'm the guy that was number 1 in the rankings for WBC belt for years and years and was avoided and didn't get my mandatory opportunities. I'm now being talked about like I'm chopped liver.
Yeah,
you'd be a little bit like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I suppose so, Simon. I mean, like I say, when you listen to Dillian, there's no spark in him anymore.
No, there's no energy. There's no menace, is there?
Exactly. There's no devil about anything that he's saying. You know, you should see Dillian White getting in people's faces and being really leery and being really up for a fight. And
but he wasn't like that when it was a Fury. I remember going to the Fury press conference, and I think we were there, Jim, weren't we? Yeah. And the moment Dillian White walked into that room, I said, "Not a chance in this fight."
Right.
Because it was like he shrunk. Physically shrank in the press conference, and that might be because Fury was so dominant at that time, and it was a Tyson Fury press conference, and he was walking around with a microphone, like Michael Buffer, and it might be an element of that. But what do you think? What do you think Dillian's motivation is then? Because I know he's getting paid handsomely for this fight,
money.
Because he didn't even know that if he wins this fight, from what I understand, he gets installed as a number one in the WBO, which means he would have the shot against Joseph Parker for the vacated belt that everyone thinks Usyk's going to have to vacate by not fighting Parker. He didn't even seem to know. So what's the motivation for Dillian? Is it money?
Money. It's got to be money. When you get to his age, you want to cash in and get as much as you can without getting hurt.
You wouldn't pick a time with him, would you?
Yeah, well, no, but I mean,
exactly.
but by saying that, Moses Atalma is the man to beat in the heavyweight division right now. So, you know, like I say, I think Dillian, after probably 4 rounds, I think his heart will probably go out of it. And by the 6th, 7th, 8th round, fight should be wrapped up. I hope that Moses Atalma doesn't think he can just go out there and walk straight through him. Yeah.
I mean, he's 37 now, Dillian.
Yeah.
You know, he's got into this.
But that's a lot of miles for heavyweight, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's a lot of miles on his clock. You know, when you think of the fights he's had and the amount of times he's had to sort of, you know,
dig deep.
Yeah, dig deep, prepare, get ready for a fight, and one thing and another. I just feel that Moses Atalma's in the right place at the right time.
Okay, well, Duke, according to Duke, and he knows a thing or two about the sport, of course, after all, 3-weight world champion himself, Dillian White, more or less, it would seem, is just going through the motions here. But by God, he'll need to sharpen up when he faces up to Moses Atoma come the first bell on Saturday night. And of course, Spencer and Gareth A. Davis have been in the Atoma camp, and they've been chatting with Ben Davison, who is Atoma's trainer. We'll hear from Ben next. So beautiful weather here in London. It's going to get up high temperatures again this afternoon. Hope it's good wherever you're listening all around the country and beyond. So many of you all around the country and beyond getting in touch with us this lunchtime. Simon and myself in the company of Duke McKenzie are talking boxing. More specifically, the big fight in Saudi Arabia this weekend between Moses Atoma and Dillian White. There is Phil. Can we have more of Duke on the show, please? Duke, would you like to come on more?
Give me a job and I'm here.
No problem, Phil. Duke's in. There is John Webster. Listening to it, Dillian's either playing it down or he's accepted defeat before the fight. I'm shocked to hear that, to be honest, because it's not exactly fighting talk. I say Moses wins in round 3, a KO, to be honest, lads, after hearing what Dillian has been sounding like and hearing Duke's take on it. Duke, you were very interesting on Dillian White a second ago. Let's turn our attention to Moses Atoma. And of course, this lad has nothing to lose. This guy, so much thought of him, even at this early stage in his career. His record this far, 12-0, and he goes in now against White. So it's youth against experience, but most of the learned people in the world of boxing think that Atoma's going to be too much for White on the night. Atoma's trainer is Ben Davison, and Ben's been in conversation with Spencer and Gareth A. Davis.
If any other heavyweight was boxing Dillian White, there wouldn't be this, it's a 1 or 2 round job expectation. I don't know where that's come from. Like if Joseph Parker was boxing him, even if Usyk was boxing him, they wouldn't say, it's a 2 round job. I don't know where that's come from. But we didn't prepare for Dillian White expecting him to turn up like he did against Tete. We were preparing for the best Dillian White. And as Spencer just said there, he's a special talent. And he's not the type of fighter where you need to look at guys and go, we need to try and catch him at the right time. He's good enough to compete with any of them at any point.
So he's ranked 27 in the world on BoxRec at the moment, but you'd put him in with any of the 26 below him.
Yeah, again, it's risk versus reward. So at the time, what do they have to offer? There might be a fight that's just as hard, but the reward's not there. There might be a fight that's just as hard as that one, but there's more reward to gain.
What's the risk in this fight?
Dillian White.
That he's the arch survivor, that he's a proud fighter, that he's shown that he's got something.
Yeah, he's a seasoned veteran.
Yeah.
He's a top quality heavyweight, top fighter, big puncher, a lot of experience. You know, there's lots there.
But Moses has said if he plays to the game plan, and you've heard this as well, Spence, if he plays to the game plan, he doesn't think Dillian makes 12 rounds.
No, I think it's very hard for any heavyweight to get to 12 rounds with him, if I'm honest.
Ben Davison saying there to Spencer and Gareth A. Davis, it could be any of these guys in and around the scene at the moment. Moses Atoma, do you go with that?
No, I can't go with that. Because he's not proven, he's not tested, he's not the finished article yet. If we're talking about maybe when Moses Atoma's had 20 fights and he's 20-0, and he's been bombing guys out like like Dillian White. I mean, there's some other heavyweights in the whole shake-up.
Caballero.
Yeah, Caballero would give him absolutely life and death. I'm sure he would. But, listen, we're talking about the Saturday night's fight. And, I mean, like I say, when you look at the other so-called contenders, or the other guys that are in the top sort of 15, there's some big boys in there. There's some decent fights in there. And Caballero is I'd put him right up at the top of that list because that kid can fight. And I think he's only about 30, 31. So his youth's on his side. He's not an old man. He's in his absolutely physical prime. And I'm sure those two will meet at some point in time.
I mean, Simon, Duke, tell me, say Atoma wins on Saturday night, as is anticipated. And who knows, he might get the job done early. What logically would be next for him?
Got to be Parker, isn't it?
Well, that's the thought process, isn't it? Because my understanding of the situation is that Moses is the number 1 in the WBO. Joseph Parker is the interim WBO champion. If Usyk vacates, which he has to make a determination in the next couple of weeks of whether he's going to, then Joseph Parker will fight for the WBO belt and likely against Moses Atoma. And if Moses Atoma goes in and does a very impressive number against Dillian White, then I think Francis and Frank will put him in against Parker. It's an easy fight for them to make because they're both inside their stable. Both of them will take the fight, I suspect. Joe Parker will take the fight, I'm damn sure.
In a heartbeat, he'll take the fight and go into it full of confidence.
Duke, when you look at Itoma, what impresses you most? Is it not the fact that he gets the job done, it's the way he gets the job done. He's a wrecking ball, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got a skill set that's not really seen by heavyweights. You know, he'll throw screw shots at you, he'll throw long hooks, short hooks, he'll jab with you when need to, and he sets everything up really, really well. He's got an old head on young shoulders. So, and he's got a great attitude as well, because he doesn't get carried away by all the pats on the back and all the adulation that everybody's sort of bestowing on him. He's very, very calm. He's very cool, very calculated. And like I say, with the right kind of guidance, he will go all the way. But, I mean, you can't even begin to start talking about Joseph Parker until he's dealt with Dillian White. But, you know, because Joseph Parker brings a whole set of world of problems to him, because he's a mature, grown, seasoned professional, and will take Moses Atama into the later rounds and could quite easily drown in there.
You know, regardless of what happens on Saturday night, and this is for both of you guys, after the golden years of Fury and AJ, is there a danger that the British heavyweight boxing scene is heading for a vacuum period?
Of what? Of personality or achievements?
Of both.
I don't think of achievements. I think personality, Fury and Joshua, for different reasons, have bags and bags of charisma. Tyson for what comes out of his mouth, and for Anthony Joshua for his standing, right, for the way he represents himself. But when you've got performance, if Atoma is what we think he's going to be, inside the ring, he could possibly eclipse what those two boys have done. Outside of the ring, commercially and in terms of representation, I think that's going to be challenging for him, unless there's a different side of his personality that we've yet to see. And we'll see some of that coming out in this week because he's headlining. So you'll have seen him having to do press conferences and face-offs and all the stuff that's the stuff of legend that Fury did back in the time when he was running around in his Batman outfit saying dreadful things that created. But it was matched by his performances.
Yeah.
This boy, I think, and of course you've got Daniel Dubois to come back. Lessons will be learnt from Daniel, and we'll see what else comes in that. You've got Fabio Wardley that might go to a certain level. So there's lots of British heavyweights out there. We're not the old days of Brian London looking up from the canvas, are we?
No, not at all. That's a good point. Someone's made a good point. I think boxing, heavyweight boxing, has evolved to a point now where you can almost say the boxers of today are far better than the boxers, the British fighters of yesterday. You know, when you talk about Brian Londons and maybe the Henry Coopers of this world, they weren't the most technically skilled guys in the world. If you look at Moses Atama against those guys, he's head and shoulders in terms of ability, natural ability. Moses Atama, he's got the skill set of, say, like a light heavyweight or even a cruiserweight. That his variety of punches for a 20-year-old young man is pretty, you know, it's very, very good.
He absolutely spread-eagled Dempsey McKean. Do you fear for Dillian on Saturday night?
I don't fear for Dillian White because he can carry himself well. I feel that Dillian White will probably get stopped late in the fight. I think he'll probably go over, get knocked down. It'll be a TKO. I don't see him getting knocked clean out. You
don't see it being a totally lights out situation for
No, I don't think he gets knocked clean out. He'll get stopped almost certainly, but I think you get like a TKO, not a clean KO.
Depends what it gets drawn into, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he got stopped by Anthony Joshua. There was a lot behind that, wasn't there? Dillian at that time was an angry man about the prestige that Joshua got and he hadn't got. And you remember after the bell, Dillian was swinging punches, and then he did get dropped and knocked out, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he could get drawn into that because he is a fighting man. So if Moses Atoma starts sticking it right on him, Dillian is going to put himself in the way of it.
Yeah. Duke, when you look at the undercard, does it excite you? Nick Ball, Sam Goodman for the featherweight WBA title?
Well, it's like with Nick Ball, it's like they're sort of treading water a little bit. I expect him to win it the weekend again, quite handily. You want to see him in a unification title fight, Nick Ball, because A, he deserves it. B, the other champions out there will give you all the answers that you need to know about Nick Ball. His style is not made for a long career because he's so explosive and he can only fight one way. He's one-dimensional in my opinion, but
It's a hell of a dimension, though,
but his dimension is, again, it's off the Richter scale. He's like a little battleship. He's so physically strong and hard. But, you know, those guys can get tamed.
And what on earth might we see between Hrgovic and Adelaide?
Good fight. That's probably fight of the night for me, to be honest with you. That's fight of the night. David Adelaide has got a point to prove. And, you know, this gets him a genuine world ranking, right, if he can beat Hrgovic. And Hrgovic also has a point to prove. Because, you know, when he boxed Daniel Dubois, and Daniel Dubois absolutely handled him and dealt with him. He's, this is his redemption. Needs to get back on the scene. Needs to go out there and try and do a good job on your man there. But it's a good fight. It could be fight of the night.
So just with you, I'll do it quick fire. Who wins it? Itoma White.
Itoma and Dillian White. Itoma wins in about 8 rounds.
Nick Ball Goodman.
Yeah, that's going to go early. That's like 6 rounds.
And it's going for Nick.
Nick Ball, definitely.
And Hrgovic Adelaide.
Hrgovic Adelaide. I'm going to go Adelaide in about 10.
Oof.
I think he stops in about 10.
We're in for something then, if it goes that way. It's all live, of course, on talkSPORT. The action coming your way from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Stay with us. Much more after this.
Who doesn't love the Ryder Cup, the competition that ignites and unites the greats of golf like no other? 1927 brought us the very first edition at the Worcester Country Club in Massachusetts. For the first 22 editions, when it was just British and Irish golfers versus the US, America were only beaten 3 times. But in 1979, in came Europe, and in came Seve Ballesteros, who went on to win 5 of them. Since Team Europe became a thing, the head-to-head reads Europe 13, USA 9. Europe's last away win was the miracle at Medina in 2012. America hasn't won on European soil since 1993 at the Belfry. So what about the money? The most recent Ryder Cup in Rome drew in a record 271,000 spectators and boosted the Italian economy by €262 million. The PGA of America TV deal with NBC is worth $440 million, but 2025 will be the first time ever that the US team will receive a fee for playing. Of course, in Rome, legend has it Patrick Cantley refused to wear his cap because he wasn't being paid to wear it, though he insisted it simply didn't fit. Either way, Team Europe have made it clear they're more than happy to keep playing for the thrill, joy and prestige of the Ryder Cup.
Update on talkSPORT with DAZN, the global home of boxing. Buy now at dazn.com/boxing.
As you know, this Saturday, DAZN brings you 5 huge fights in one night. Unbeaten rising star Moses Atoma takes on the proven and very dangerous Dillian White in a heavyweight showdown, plus action from Nick Ball, David Adley, Raymond Ford and Filip Hrgovic. Don't miss it this Saturday, August the 16th, and you can watch it only on DAZN. It is also, of course, live on talkSPORT. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Duke McKenzie live on talkSPORT this Thursday lunchtime. So much for what's going on in Saudi Arabia this Saturday night. What is going on is considerable. What's going to happen when Atoma goes in there against Dillian White? But here's the thing. Anthony Joshua hasn't boxed since his knockout loss to Daniel Dubois last September. But reports are that he's expected to return to the ring at the back end of this year. The question is exactly where and up against whom. The French heavyweight Tony Yoka has claimed once again that AJ's team are scouting locations for a bout with him in Africa. So have we really moved a step closer to Yoka versus AJ, maybe in Ghana, West Africa, maybe Nigeria, maybe somewhere similar this December? Let's get more on this. The very same French heavyweight boxer, Tony Yoka, joins us live on the show this lunchtime. Tony, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Good to speak to you. Simon's alongside me, and so too is Duke McKenzie. So what are you hearing? Are you going to be fighting Joshua later this year?
I mean, I don't know. I heard that there is talks and speculation about this fight. So I'm just waiting on my team to come back to me.
I mean, your promoter, Johan Zue, I hope I've got that pronunciation right, claims that AJ told him he was 90% sure that he'd face you next. So it seems it could be very much on.
I mean, he's not my promoter.
Queensbury is right. Queensbury, aren't they?
Yeah. I just signed with Queensbury a few weeks ago. So yeah, I heard it. I saw it in a newspaper that maybe Anthony Joshua told him that. I'm just waiting, I'm just waiting on it to be real and just to start getting ready for that fight.
Would you be ready for it? If it was to, if you get the news today, it's happening, would you be ready, Tony? Would you be up for it?
Definitely, yes. Why would I not?
You got to love that, Duke, haven't you?
It's a bold statement to make, and it's a confident statement to make, and he's a prize fighter, so there's no reason why he shouldn't feel that he can't beat Anthony Joshua. Joshua's been out for a little while now. It's been nearly a year, which is a long time. And to come back and fight such a dangerous fighter like this young kid, the pedigree's there, isn't it, with Tony, and as well it is with Joshua. They're both ex-Olympians, and that, they could go into this fight, and it's like a pick-em fight.
Yeah.
How would you feel, Tony, if the news came through, it's not going to be you, he's opted to go in with Jake Paul instead?
I can't believe that. If they choose someone else to fight late this year, like a real heavyweight, a boxer, I will be okay. It is what it is, but not Jake Paul. Don't say that kind of stupid stuff, because it's not like he's 60 or 70 years old trying to make some money. He's a real athlete. I can't believe that he's going to do some stupid thing like this.
Do you not regard Jake Paul as a real boxer?
No, he's not. And he knows that he's not. He's a YouTuber, and then he's a YouTuber who's trying to do boxing, and he's pretty good at it, but he's not on the top level.
Wait, would you rub your hands, Simon, if you heard that Tony's to go in against AJ?
Well, myself and Tony spoke a couple of weeks ago, and obviously at the time we were talking about the opportunity that presented itself for him. Because Tony, obviously the dynamic of this is you are being brought in, if it indeed is you, as a rebuild for Anthony Joshua. That's what you're being brought in as. And I asked you a question about your aspirations a couple of weeks ago about do you want to fight for a world title? And you said, yeah, I do. Of course I do. And I said, well, which fight would you choose? Would you choose a fight against Cabriel or a fight against Joshua? And you said Joshua. Now, Cabriel's nearer to a world title than Joshua. So it feels to me that your opportunity here is to get paid very well. Tell me why I'm wrong.
You're wrong, because Cabriel is the one who's closer to a title shot, I think, but Joshua was a world champion. So he's the closest thing for me to a tighter shot, because if you beat someone that is very high and everybody's looking at, then you can be move on really fast. If I beat Joshua, I know that the next fight is going to be a tighter shot.
Yeah, I
But
think
if I
what
beat,
Tony's
but
saying.
if I beat Caballero,
Yeah.
then I would just be in the line, you know, like he is for a few years now.
What Tony's saying is that Joshua's the bigger name.
He is, yeah.
If he went out and then he blows Joshua out the water, then the next fight's got to be for a world title. I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, I really believe that probably with Caballero, nobody wants to probably fight him. That's a real fight. And you'd avoid him like the plague.
Absolutely. But the other question was asked of Tony, and I understand the answer, which was the nearest fight. Because Caballero was on the cusp of fighting for a world title. If you beat Caballero, you're going to get into a mandatory slot.
Yeah.
What is it about your recent form, Tony? You went through a period where there's no shame in losing to Martin Bakole, but you lost 3 fights in a row. What's the change in direction? You lost to, with due respect, an aging Carlos Takam. What's different now about where you are? You've obviously had an Olympic gold medal. Lots of things were thought of you, and lots of opportunities would potentially have been made available to you. It hasn't panned out that way. You're in your early 30s now. Where are you at this stage in your career that lends you with the opportunity to be a major force in the heavyweight division?
I think everything happened for a reason. Okay, when I turned pro, I stayed in France. I think I wasn't managing properly or promoting properly, you know. That's why I wasn't in the mix with other names. I lost a few fights, like Martin Bakole and Carlos Takam. I changed everything. I changed my coach. I changed the people around me. I train with Don Shaw since 2 years now, and I think he gave me what I needed to be a real threat in this heavyweight division.
Well, my goodness, you can fight, though. I mean, former Olympic gold boxing medalist, 14 wins, 3 defeats. No matter what, though, you'd be ready for Joshua. Let's take you on to what we're going to be looking forward to this weekend, Tony, over in Saudi. Moses Atoma going in against Dillian White. What do you think of that one?
I think it's a tricky one because we don't really know in what form Dillian White is going to be, because it's been a while we haven't seen him like in the big fights.
Yeah, I mean, the sensible thought is that Moses Atoma wins and wins in spectacular style. Do you go with that?
Oh, no. That's why this fight is interesting, because it's going to be a testing fight for Atoma and maybe things like a last chance for Dillian White. Okay. So everybody has like it's a loser's fight.
Tony, we'll speak again, hopefully, and when we do, you never know. It might be following the news that you're going to fight AJ later this year.
As I said to everybody, I'm not like focused on the AJ fight. It might happen, it might not happen. They have talking to me about AJ Caballero. They talk to me about Joseph Parker. I'm just ready for anyone. You know, I never say no to any fight. I never turn down a fight. I fought Martin Bakole when everybody was avoiding him. So I'm just a fighter, you know.
But you I know you said to me the other day, Tony, you like Joshua. What Joshua do you think you'll be getting? Do you think you'll be getting a vanquished fighter that's been knocked out by Daniel Dubois, that's an easier fight for you to take than potentially some of the other challenges? Or do you still think Anthony Joshua represents a massive challenge for any heavyweight going in with him?
It's a massive challenge. And he's a pride guy, okay? The loss he got last year, I know it hurts him in deep, you know. So I know he will wants to come back with a big fight and something like in good shape.
Terrific. Tony, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Tony Yoka, French heavyweight boxer. Duke McKenzie is in studio with us this lunchtime. I want to finish on this note with you today, and it's to say it's a bit of a downer of a note today is putting it mildly, Duke. Elsewhere this week, Japanese boxing officials have announced stricter rules on weight loss, and they've introduced urine tests after the death of 2 of their own fighters on the same boxing card, as you'll be aware of earlier this month. Hirosama Urakawa and Shigotoshi Kotari were both 28 years of age, Duke, and they died in separate fights on August the 2nd in Tokyo. Both boxers had surgery for subdural hematoma, a condition where blood collects between the skull and the brain. The suggestion was that they were too dehydrated. Where does boxing go with this, Duke?
It's the saddest thing I think I've ever heard. You know, to lose one fighter to this, you know, is bad enough, but to lose two is almost it's unparalleled. It's unheard of, which is another reason why, when you look at the Eubank Ben situation, the rehydration clause and the amount of weight this guy's got to lose, it's dangerous. You can lose your life, and these guys have probably lost their lives for the same reason. Your heart goes out to their family, and condolences goes out to their families, but that's not going to bring these guys back. There's got to be stricter rules put in place for rehydration. If that's the case.
What do you think of, though, when we make this case, and I think the British Boxing Board of Control should be stepping in here, because my understanding of it is that in order to not be... he gets £1 million extra, Eubank, for the rehydration clause.
Making weight?
No, for the rehydration clause, for observing the rehydration clause.
Okay.
Right? If he doesn't observe the rehydration clause, he doesn't get the £1 million.
Right.
So the fighter is opting for a less of a rehydration clause. That shouldn't be an option, should it, really?
It shouldn't be an option, Simon. But again, money talks. And when people are waving ridiculous amounts of money in front of you, what are you going to do?
But the Boxing Board of Control should be saying, I'm sorry, I don't know if Spencer says to me rehydration clauses are relatively academic because the damage is done in the build-up.
Yeah, sure.
And rehydration clauses is a little bit of a misnomer, but it can't hurt. It can't help, can it?
No.
But Chris is electing to put his own wealth above his potential health.
It's crazy.
Maybe the board should be stepping in.
You think the board, Simon, should outlaw that huge financial incentive?
Well, I think they should take it away, because when eventually a tragedy happens, what are the board going to say then? We sanctioned a fight. We let a fighter make a decision about his own wealth. And people are going to turn around and say the sport's going to be brought into disrepute. The banned boxing regime is going to come up again. And all of a sudden, you're going to have a real problem. And if it's been then, a fighter's been allowed to make the decision himself, I think the British Boxing Board of Control should be the people saying, we're not having that.
This double tragedy
100%.
could be the moment in time that changes things.
Well, let's hope it is. Because one fatality is one too many. Now we've had two on the same show, which tells you really, I mean, a lot of guys cut weight for fights. And, when you're sort of like maybe £6, £7, £10 overweight, you can do that to a degree quite safely.
Yeah.
When you start talking about stone difference, stone and a half, 2 stone even, it's a ridiculous amount of weight to lose. And this is one of the reasons why boxers are in such danger.
Duke, thank you so much for your contribution today.
Thanks, Jim.
Good to see you. Duke McKenzie with us here in studio this lunchtime. As promised, before we go at 1 o'clock, you're going to hear part of the conversation that was conducted this morning for talkSPORT between Arne Slot and Danny Murphy. Jim White and Simon Jordan live in talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. It's back. Premier League football is back tomorrow night. The champions Liverpool at Anfield go in against Bournemouth, and it's live on talkSPORT.
Oh, the Premier League. We've missed you. It's talkSPORT. We are Premier League. Salah, 1-0. The Premier League title is coming back to Anfield. Saka, 1-0 Arsenal.
Somewhere along the line, Arsenal got to win something. You can't keep on talking about potential.
Haaland to take it round the keeper. Oh, that's magnificent.
They'll be hating from last season. I wouldn't write off Man City.
Leeds and Burnley have been the two best teams in the Championship this season. Sunderland are Premier League again.
Thomas Frank is going to be the new Tottenham manager.
Palmer goes for goal and scores! What a hat-trick! Or give it away to Isak. There's his goal! Alexander Isak! Bruno Fernandes! What a finish! What a goal on the counter for Manchester United! Top to bottom, one of the most unpredictable leagues around.
We cannot wait for it. As I mentioned earlier this very morning, Danny Murphy up in the northwest and got himself in front of Liverpool boss Arne Slot, just for us here on talkSPORT. And of course, the match very much on Arne's mind, the curtain raiser, the match against Bournemouth tomorrow night at Anfield. So Danny spoke with Arne, but they spoke to start with the tragic passing of Diogo Jota, never far from anyone's minds.
Yeah, we celebrated really well, and that's what we did a few months ago. But when there's grief or we have to mourn, then this club is also very special. And players have conducted themselves tremendous in this period of time, but our fans have showed their grief and support to Diogo, his brother and his family as well, in the best possible way. So I'm expecting it to be impressive, but also emotional.
And we'll get back to that very shortly. Simon, I can tell you this lunchtime, The Athletic is reporting that Chelsea have donated a portion of their team bonuses from winning the Club World Cup. They've donated it to the family of Diogo and his brother Andre Silva. Around £11.5 million was allocated to go to the squad. So that's worth about £400,000 per player. The club and the squad have also agreed together that they will send an equal share of what they got to the Jota and Silva family.
Well, that's a nice touch, isn't it? We know that the football family, as dysfunctional as it can be at certain times, when it comes into moments like this, it can stand out and do things like this. I mean, obviously, we're in a situation where players are paid so much money, so much controversy about this Club World Championship and how much duress it put upon players. It's a nice touch. It's a bit of class in a situation that has nothing but tragedy attached to it. And I'm sure, whilst money isn't going to make any difference to the loss, it is a very nice gesture, and well done to Chelsea for doing it.
To Chelsea for that. Then, of course, Danny and Arne turned their attentions to matters on the field. What kind of season lies ahead? With Slot facing pressure not only from his own very high standards, but also from the close competitors, and there are many who are prepared to breathe right down his neck.
Last season, I also felt pressure on my side because everybody Maybe didn't expect a lot, so that also comes down with a certain pressure. Because everybody was, after Jurgen, it's impossible. I think now we might need more time than we needed last season because the manager changed, but the players stayed the same. Yeah. And I've said many times that the playing style between Jurgen and me is not so different that it takes ages for them to be adapted to.
Yes.
Now players need to adapt to each other. And we also brought different profiles in, so we cannot compare Florian Wirtz with any player we've got. Yeah, maybe with Harvey Elliott, but he didn't play that much last season. And Jeremy Frimpong is a completely different profile than Trent Alexander-Arnold. Yeah. So this is something that might need some time.
You mentioned just before about your competitors. Obvious candidate, Arsenal, Man City, strengthening. Do you see Chelsea coming into that as well now?
I expected them to win last season already.
Really?
Yeah. The amount of quality they have. And they were, in the start of the season, they were into it. So I think they were, after 10 games, they were...
Even by December, they were.
Yeah, they were still there. So squad depth, quality they have, very good manager as well. And I think they've showed this by winning the trophies they won last season. Good for us is that they also had a period last season where they struggled, and that's why they couldn't compete till the end for the league title. But now again, they're strengthening the team again. So yeah, very good team, good players, good manager. So a team that's, in my opinion, one of the ones that are really challenge for a league title.
That was just a taster of the chat between Arne and Danny this morning. I can tell you, tune into talkSPORT Breakfast tomorrow from 8 and you'll hear the whole interview, the interview in full, or you can find it on the talkSPORT YouTube channel. Simon, you're always pleased to tell me. I was going to say that. You always jump on something and use, this is why so-and-so impresses me, and I'll tell you why.
He's very understated.
What do you think of him?
He's very understated. He doesn't have the same personality as some of the other managers like Klopp, that's all rock and roll or whatever it was that was described as heavy metal. But I don't give him the dispensation for the observation he just made about new players because he's buying finished products. He isn't buying works in progress. So he's buying top end of the marketplace. So he doesn't get that little win that he's trying to give himself, a little bit of margin, a little bit of wiggle room. Well, last year I inherited a very established playing squad, so I didn't have to change anything. This year people have got to adapt. Yeah, but you're buying adaptable players. You're buying people that are the best around in their marketplace, or certainly in that sort of stratosphere. Right. So I would expect them to adapt pretty quick. Yeah. I'm not going to give you that, but I know I spoke to Danny very briefly out there a moment ago. I know he enjoyed meeting this fella and thinks he's got real substance. And also, I like the way he is. He doesn't sit. It's been a fabulous honeymoon period for him, hasn't it? Because he's walked in the door with the pressure of following Jurgen Klopp won the league in his first go. And what we've seen from him has been very balanced all the way through. We've not seen any controversy. We've not seen any carping and whining and going on about fixtures and injuries and so on and so forth. And we're not seeing the usual stuff that we tend to bristle at sitting in the studio. But when you listen to him, he is a, for want of a better expression, he's a proper man, a proper manager in my view.
It's very measured.
Very measured. That's it. Very measured. So I like him.
I'm glad.
Yeah. I'd like to have asked him what he thinks about Isak. And what he thinks about Isak's behaviour at Newcastle. Does he want to play in that like in his dressing room? But I suppose that would be off limits for
you never know
Liverpool's press office.
You never know. To find out if Danny did do that, you'll need to hear the full interview. Simon, brilliant as always. Thank you so much. Remember, Liverpool-Bournemouth live from Anfield tomorrow night. Gets the whole thing going. And it's live on talkSPORT. We're at 1 o'clock this Thursday lunchtime. Thanks to everybody for all the messages, texts, the tweets, the lot, and from your participation in this very show that the man to my left and I are delighted to bring you. 1 o'clock this Thursday lunchtime.